Good evening. It's 5:30 on May 14, 2024, and I am calling to order the canvass and oath of office portion of tonight's agenda. Council, you have in front of you right now several different pages that were forwarded to us from the elections office over at the county, Ms. Kristen Miles. We need to pay attention to only page 3 of 7. And the city secretary has highlighted that for us. If y'all can, has everybody located it? Outstanding. It reads for place 2, Cynthia Sanders Myers ran unopposed. She got a total of 768 total votes. For council member place 4, 2 candidates, Jimmy Crouch and Carrie Fossler. The total votes were 956, of which Mr. Crouch received 446 and Ms. Fossler received 510. These votes have been certified by our elections office, and I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Council Member Lee and a second by Council Member Plunkett. Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Now's the time to come that is somewhat informal but formal at the same time. I'd like to recognize outgoing Councilmember Crouch's service to the city. Jimmy, I really appreciate your dedication to serve, your willingness to serve. I know it's a tough row to sometimes serve. Sometimes it's thankless, and sometimes it's so full of thanks that we don't know what to do. I wish you luck in your future endeavors from this point forward. Councilmember Lee, do you have something you want to add?
Sure. So when I first ran for office, it was against Jimmy, and we met before the election. He was actually very protective of me during the voting day. We had a lot of fun, even though we were running against one another. And since we've served on council, Jimmy has called me often. Oftentimes we stay on the phone an hour or more, just talking about everything under the sun. What I want to say I like about Jimmy the most is his willingness to talk to people in the community. He's been very engaged with our homeless population, which I think, oh, you gotta cry, with our homeless population, and that warms my heart. But he has a willfulness to serve the community and does not shy away from talking to those people who want to talk to him. So thank you. I'm gonna miss you sitting next to me. Between these two right here, I have quite a bit of fun at council meetings, so I wish you the best.
Councilmember Plunkett.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an honor to serve with you. It really has. You took a lot of arrows in the beginning, and you were dedicated to try, to fix, a lot of what was broken in the city from a customer service standpoint, and your experience with development and with construction has been invaluable when it comes to, us understanding the issues a lot of times with, contracts that we're approving or modifications to contracts. And, I'm just very, very honored to have served with you. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Wish I'd prepared a speech or something. Everything that the two of these have said about you is correct and accurate, and I've always said that Jimmy's spirit animal is a golden retriever because he will greet and talk to anyone about anything, and regardless of if it's a hard topic or an easy topic, and he comes back with with information about it and a new friend every single time. And I also have been honored to serve with you, and I thank you very, very much. And this isn't goodbye. I live down the street from you. I'll see you all the time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Meyer.
I've had so much fun serving with you, Jimmy, because we've had some rodeos, haven't we? And we got the rodeo done. So that was very important to both of us. So I really appreciate your leadership on that and helping with that, and so many other projects that you put your heart into. And I know we're going to continue working together because we got a lot of good things we need to accomplish for Bastrop, and we always end everything with Team Bastrop. So we're still Team Bastrop. So thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we move to Councilmember Crouch's remarks, City Manager, do you have something you want to add?
I do. I just want to echo, it's always the difficult task to be in the arena. It's always a difficult task. Many will issue complaints, criticism, etc., but it's the person that's actually sitting up there and doing the work and taking the arrows. And this is not for the faint of heart. What you guys do, I always say, I don't want to be the elected official. I'd rather be the appointed that you guys can fire in 72 hours. You guys gotta, you gotta hear it. You gotta hear it from your neighbors. And I think I'm on 24. I'm not. You guys are on 24. So thank you very much for your willingness to serve, and thank you for your commitment to the community. It showed every single day. Thank you.
I don't think she's done yet. It may be. Well, Councilmember Crouch, you're up.
I think this is the first meeting I've never worn a tie to, so I feel kind of naked on my neck. I did write something because I thought I would get up here and choke and not know what to say, so I'm just going to read what I had written and thank all of you. I wanted to say thank you to the citizens of Bastrop that have supported me for the past 3 years. I originally ran for council with a specific reason in mind. That was to repair what I saw as a fractured building and development department. That area of the city has now gone through a complete 180-degree turnaround from where it was 3 years ago. We now have new staff, except for Viviana. She hung out the whole time, I think. A new city manager and a new customer-first attitude that every citizen deserves. I also want to thank the city staff and city attorney that helped me sort through all of the quick lessons learned, even on simple things like just attending and holding a city council meeting. They work nonstop to make our jobs and council meetings seem very easy. We good? I can move forward or backwards a little bit. I had the pleasure to work beside some really special individuals while on council. Bill Peterson, Drusilla Rogers, Doc Jackson, Cheryl Lee, Lyle Nelson, Kevin Plunkett, John Kirkland, and Cynthia Sanders Myers are all special council people that I got to work with. Those people give an enormous amount of their personal time and have committed to making the city of Bastrop a much better place. I also want to thank Mayor Ken Kessless and the late Bill Ennis. Bill was actually the person that first asked me if I would be interested in running for his old council position. He could see the changes that needed to be made, and I'm proud to have served in succession of him. Ken Kessless was mayor and my neighbor when I first moved to Bastrop 10 years ago, and pointed me in the right direction when I asked him what I could do to volunteer for the city. I've enjoyed every minute that I've served the city in all capacities, and I challenge everyone in the room to volunteer. If you see something that you feel needs to be changed. Just sitting back, complaining, and doing nothing about it is not a good option. Take the time to volunteer and place yourself in a position to better your community. You'll feel much better about your city if you are part of the solution. The city is in good hands with the new council. With the amount of growth that we will continue to experience, we need strong leaders, and I believe that we have those in place. Thank you again, and I can't wait to drive down Water Street without spilling my glass of water.
Outstanding. Thank you. Now we get to the part that involves the judge, the oath of office, and the first oath of office is going to be to our incumbent and newly voted for, Cynthia Sanders Meyer. If you will go to the judge and follow his instructions.
You know, they say there's only two ways to run for office, scared and unopposed. And unopposed is a whole lot better. All right, I'm going to do that on the hands of everybody. You ready? All right, if you'll raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Cynthia Sanders Meyer,
I, Cynthia Sanders Meyer,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of City Council Place 2
of City Council Place 2
of the City of Bastrop
of the City of Bastrop
of the State of Texas,
of the State of Texas,
and will to the best
and will to the best
of my ability
of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state.
and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. This is the best kind of paper.
Take your usual place. Want to welcome you back.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. You know what work is ahead of us. You know what work we've accomplished up to this point. So we welcome your continued participation and input. So we're happy to have you back.
Thank you.
Does anybody else want to add another welcome to Councilmember Meyer?
Howdy.
There you are.
I've really enjoyed the past year and getting to know you better. And we've been neighbors for a long time downtown, but didn't really get to know each other. And it's been wonderful to get to know you and to see how dedicated you are to the job and to making Bastrop a better place.
Now it's your time to say something. Say something that's going to embolden all of us.
Okay. Thank you all for your support. Thank you to the whole city of Bastrop, for everyone, because it's been a really exciting year since last year when I came into office, and a lot of great things we've gotten done, but we still have a lot more to do, and I look so forward to that, and I look forward to working for all of you, because I have some family here tonight, but you're all my family, and everyone out there in this whole city is my family. So you can call me anytime you want. No, not really, but you can. I'm always here to listen to you, for sure, because I'm doing this for you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we'll move to item 4B, the incoming council member, Carrie Fossler. If you will approach the judge.
Council, Place 4 of the City of Bastrop of the State of Texas, and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state. So help me God. Congratulations.
Where are you going? Join the rest of us here in the arena. This is what's wonderful, living in a democracy. Peaceful transition of power. Now that you're seated, welcome. You're now official. And the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you, friends. Thank you, frenemies. Thank you, new colleagues. Thank you to those who door knocked with me, and thank you to those who took a chance on me. I'm delighted to be sitting here on this dais, and I take it very seriously. I want to first give a nod to my Place 4 predecessor, Jimmy Crouch. I want to look right at you. Jimmy is a longtime friend and welcomed me onto the Parks Board when he was the chair of that board. He is a great listener, and especially a great listener for frustrated folks. He brought some of the development community together with the city manager for ongoing ad hoc meetings in order to gather their feedback. And much of that feedback will be at the center of the code revisions that we'll be discussing later in the year. So thank you, Jimmy. You are particularly well suited for that heated environment, and I acknowledge all the listening and the organizing you did to get us through that very rough patch. We'll take it to here, but thank you so much for your groundwork and you did great things. Thank you so much. I wish you many epic bike rides and beautiful adventures in your newfound freedom. Thank you. And as for me and what's ahead, people keep asking what I hope to accomplish. I'll tell ya, I ran on the campaign slogan, Community First. And what that means for us right now in this particular time of growth is the community having a relationship with the developers. I want to form a good neighbor designation program, a voluntary program that developers can participate in if they so desire. It's a way for Bastropians to express our values and gives developers a mechanism to express their goodwill in wanting to be a good neighbor. Right now, we do not have a mechanism in place for developers to show goodwill beyond simply meeting the minimum standards of the code, and we are more than that. The Good Neighbor Designation Program could look like this. For example, we established 10 categories with different options, and developers could choose one option from each category, and then their development can receive a Good Neighbor designation from the citizens of Bastrop. For example, we are a bird city. Give us something for the birds. We are a tree city. Give us something for the trees. We honor the mayor's monarch pledge. Give us something for the monarchs that pass through. Art. We love our art. Give the Cultural Arts Commission a mural space. Old ones, we value our old ones. Give us a few ADA compliant, smaller footprint homes with no yard upkeep that are more affordable so the older ones can age in place with us. Young ones, we value young ones. Give us a shaded playscape for the little ones. We value our workforce. Dedicate a certain percentage of homes for workforce housing. We value our local businesses. Hire a certain percentage of local workers. And neighbors, meet your neighbors. It's not required by the code, but what if? What if you get to know your neighbors before meeting them at the public hearing for the first time? They'll go much smoother. And local experts, we value our local experts. I've talked with the Bastrop County Master Gardeners, the Bastrop County Master Naturalists, Bastrop County Audubon. They're all on board for these early conversations and have something to offer developments in the early stages, whether it be biocensus, bird surveys, land stewardship ideas. So that's it. That's the basic plan. But when you talk to Maria Montoya Staten, basic is not good enough. She wants to do a high flyer status certification. So yes, you can still do one of the 10 certifications, one of the 10 categories, but a higher flyer status is you would also contribute to a bird sculpture in town or contribute to a bird playscape at one of our parks. So not all developers will want to participate. Some may strictly meet the code and bypass the need for a public hearing altogether. But for those developers that need variances from the city or want to go the PDD route or simply want to participate, this builds trust with the neighbors and is really good PR. Win-win is always really good PR. And I imagine their public hearings will go quite differently had they done this groundwork and began these relationships here in Bastrop. And then once we get a few under our belt, the developers will have other developments to look at for an example. But right now, we're leaving it to them. We're in reactionary mode based on what they propose, and we have to go first. We have to initiate the conversations, and we have to get into them earlier. Once they're presenting a zone concept scheme with drawings, any changes to the drawings and drainage plans are very expensive, so we need to have the conversations from the very beginning. The Good Neighbor Designation Program. That's my big idea. That seems awfully simple, but it's also things that are simply not being done right now. So thank you. I look forward to putting the community first in lots of creative ways, but that's the first one I want to do.
Thank you very much. I know everyone saw cake when they come walking in, but we have some real business to take care of. Each year after new council members are sworn in or re-sworn in, we as a council have to elect a mayor pro tem. Mayor pro tem is an honorary position that sits in for the mayor when the mayor is unavailable. At this point in time, I will entertain a motion to nominate somebody for Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll nominate John Kirkland.
I'll second.
We have a nomination and a second. The floor is still open for any other nominations. Seeing none, Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Plunkett,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland,
Yes.
Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler.
Yes.
Thank you, council. We have a Mayor Pro Tem, and it is now time for cake and a reception for outgoing Councilmember outgoing Councilmember Crouch. Don't throw anything. and a reception for incoming council members Fossler and Meyer. We stand in recess. Once again, it is 6:31. Council is back in regular session. We will move to, our Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight we have two outstanding young ladies, Evelyn Trejo and Jasmine Jimenez Cedillo, from the Camino Real Elementary School Girls Who Code Club. Ladies, if you will step up here and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everybody please rise? Right here, ladies. Turn around, face the flag. Start us off. You ready? I pledge allegiance pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Give these young ladies a round of applause. You ready for some pictures right there? You got them? You got them? Thank you, ladies. You did good. If you'll remain standing, I am looking in the audience to see if Reverend Phil Woods is here. And I do not see him. I am going to call on our Mayor Pro Tem to lead us in prayer.
Dear Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to gather together as the city government. We thank you for all the many people that have joined us here today, and we thank you for the peaceful transfer of power that we enjoy in our country and in our democracies. Lord, we pray for wisdom tonight. We pray that you provide the words to know what to say and know what to hear. We pray that you help us to listen and help the people that are going to speak to us tonight to share everything that they need to share so that we can make the right decisions. And Lord, we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Y'all may be seated. Thank y'all. Going to move to item number 10, Mayor's Report. Just want to share a few events since we last assembled here. On May the 4th, I was honored to attend a celebration at Camp Swift's commemorating their 82nd year of opening. Camp Swift is a valuable economic and community support for our entire county, contributing over $5 million a year to our local economy. I want to thank Lieutenant Colonel Meller for inviting me to attend this great event. They have a wonderful museum out there if you get a chance to go out there. On May 6th, I, along with other members of this council, attended an outstanding presentation by Dr. Andrea Roberts on freedom colonies. Being a history buff, it was great to learn about our collective history that helped shape our land and people. And then on May the 8th, participated in a community input meeting along, again, with other members of our engaged council for the Bastrop County Cultural Center and Freedom Colonies Museum. Great input and discussion from a very engaged group of our citizens. On May the 11th, at a celebration for Older Americans Month hosted by the Bastrop County Cares, I was honored to read and present a proclamation commemorating the month of May as Older Americans Month. Kind of my month. It got me in my heart a little bit. It was an outstanding program with some dynamic speakers and some great music. For those who were looking to see me at MC the Farm Street Opry, regretfully I was unable to do so. Apologize for that. Who ended up MCing that?
I did.
Outstanding. I want to send my regrets to the fourth graders from Email Elementary who were looking forward to meeting with the mayor on a recent field trip last week to City Hall. Actions have restricted me from visiting with them. It was canceled from my calendar. It was unfortunate. Hopefully we can do something later on. Relative to some of the resolution items that were passed on the 29th, the mayor's office has been repurposed to be a council conference room. It's been cleaned out. We were able to rescue a lot of the documents and resource material, especially relative to emergency management. Under state law, the mayor is the emergency management coordinator for the city during declared emergencies. We were able to recover a lot of the documents, research, and resource material that was there. We will move now to the council members report, and we'll start off with Council Member Meyer.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention that I took the walk with Mayor Ken Kesslis, the historical walk and tour of Main Street. That was so interesting because Ken has the backstories in all the buildings and the interesting things and where the bodies are buried. So I got to find all that out. But we had a great turnout. And this coming Saturday at 10 a.m., if you meet in front of the museum on Main Street, they're going to have another walk, and that's going to be with Judy Ennis. So I encourage everyone to go because you'll find out all kind of things that you have no idea about this town that are really fun. And another great thing that happened is a Mill fourth grade class came to take a tour of City Hall. So we came in here, and they sat at the dais, and they were the council, and they were the city manager, and they were city secretary, and they did so well. We had 3 fourth grade classes in here, and they'd just been at the park, so they were very hot, but they paid attention, and they did so well. And 3 things they voted on the dais up here. They proposed and voted and passed the motion to always have ice cream in the cafeteria. They also voted to out the dress code, no more dress codes. And they wanted a longer recess, but in order to get that, they would have had to cut their lunch hour by 15 minutes. So they said it wasn't worth it. They'd just keep their 15-minute recess. So that was the most fun.
Thank you, ma'am. Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Nothing for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Plunkett.
No, thank you.
Moving right on along, Councilmember Lee.
Good evening, Bastrop. A couple of items. I attended the TML Small Town Conference in a city I'd never heard of, Granbury, Texas. The weather almost killed me trying to get there, but I made it, and there were a lot of great workshops on leadership, the impact of creativity and art on small towns, and making the best of land use, and as always, retail recruitment. I've met so many people through the TML. We're like a little family, so we had a lot of fun those 2 days. And then I came home and attended the African American Cultural Museum's events. They're really ramping up their program at the African American Museum. I participated in a quilting project, had no idea what I was going to be doing, had to run home and get supplies because I didn't know what I was doing, but we're building a big quilt of people that have ancestors from the freedom colonies that the mayor spoke of, and I am one of those. So that's going to be a beautiful thing to have in the museum once that's completed. And then we, of course, attended the community forum. I attended the Bastrop Opera House, Drowsy Chaperone. I had no clue what that play was about, but apparently it was very big on Broadway, and it was very, very fun and energetic. Great. Our Lisa Holcomb, the executive director of Bastrop Opera House, was in it, so it was great to see her on stage singing and playing the Drowsy Chaperone. The library board is gearing up for a very full summer of programming. They have extended their hours, opening at 10 a.m. Monday through Saturday, beginning June 1st through August the 31st. The Delgado Mural Reveal is this weekend. Thank you, Lord Jesus. Saturday, May 18th we're going to have music. Mariachi bands will start playing about 9:45, and we'll probably actually start the program about 10:15. Minerva is expected to be there with her children. The mural is literally behind my house, and I have been making myself not look back there because I too want to be surprised. I got proclamations from the governor all the way up to Congress, so it's going to be a fun day, and I hope that everyone can come out and make it to Delgado. The last thing I wanted to talk about was Relay for Life. So I went to Relay for Life. Relay for Life was always a really big event in Bastrop. There would be so many bags that there would be layers of bags, tents all the way around. I can remember leaving my house at 1 in the morning to walk for 3 miles. And I remember leaving one time at 5 o'clock in the morning to walk. There were 7 tents at our Relay for Life about 2 weekends ago. So I am committed. I spoke with the organizers of the event. I've already spoken to sponsors. I'm hoping that my fellow council members will join us because the city has always participated in that event. There was a lot of stuff going on in Bastrop, but that is a very important event that we need to support. So I hope that as the months go on that I can get the support of the council members to help make that event better next year. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And I'll go ahead and call on you for the first time. Councilmember Fossler, do you have anything you wish to add?
In my 20 minutes as a council member, I've eaten cake and hugged and look forward to the mural revealing on Saturday at Minerva Delgado. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, council. We'll move on to item 10C, a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, recognizing May 19th through 25th, 2024 as Public Works Week. Madam City Secretary.
Do we have Public Works staff here? Well, streets and maintenance and everybody else who participates in making our city run, please come to the front.
I see you back there, John.
I know,
You can't
they're
hide.
acting really shy. They don't ever act this way at directors' meetings. I just want y'all to know that.
These are the people that make it work. Y'all need to be recognized. Come on.
The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas public works infrastructure, facilities, and services provided in our communities are an integral part of our citizens' health, safety, and well-being, and whereas such facilities and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government, and the private sector who are responsible for the planning, building, operation, and maintenance of transportation, water supply, water treatment, solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential to serve our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in our country to understand and appreciate public works programs in their communities, and whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, are dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works officials, and whereas the year 2024 marks the 64th Annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Now, therefore, it is hereby proclaimed that May 19th through 25th, 2024 is Public Works Week. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Bastrop to be affixed this 14th day of May, 2024. And it is signed by Sylvia Trevino Carrillo, City Manager.
Well deserved, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Council, before we move any further to agenda item 11, I want to alert you that at the request of the city manager, we will not be laying out item 15D or 15F. We will move on to item 11A, discussion and direction to staff regarding proposed City of Bastrop charter amendments for the November 2024 election. I will alert that we have some people who wish to speak on this item after it's laid out. Madam City Manager.
Mayor, if we could skip to 12A real quick and come back to 11. I don't know how these got out of order. I'm normally right behind y'all and council members' report. Mine's super, super short.
Okay, we'll move to 15A out of,
It's one item.
I'm sorry,
No, 12A.
I'm sorry, 12A.
Rick, if you could advance I don't have so that is probably the most beautiful picture I have laid eyes on in a very, 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 very long time. The wastewater treatment plant is finally online, and that is no small feat. We're not going to talk about the budget. We're not going to talk about the timeline. The plant is taking flows and is going to be deemed significantly complete. We have some outstanding issues to resolve with the plant that we're working with legal and have some mediation dates planned. But what this will allow us to do is will allow us to take flows from the old plant, send them here, and will allow us to begin rehabilitating the existing plant, which we all thought was going to be able to go away, but growth demands, that's not going to be able to happen. So I want to especially thank, we made the engineers get out of the way, and we let the contractors and city staff work through it. And so I really want to recognize Curtis Hancock, who I don't see in the back. I really want to recognize Doc Cowie, and Andres, who is not here either, really did yeoman's work as we went out and took that multiple 100-item punch list and worked it down to get to this point over the course of 60 days. So thank you, thank you, thank you to the staff. Okay. Work sessions and briefings. Back to-
One moment. Does anybody have any questions for city manager relative to the city manager's report? Oh, Councilmember Lee.
I do, actually. So I have some questions about the wastewater treatment plant. So the plant is online and fully operational, or are we just testing?
No, it's fully operational. It's taking flows.
So we're pumping raw sewage
Yes.
and discharging in the Colorado River?
No, it gets discharged, it gets treated, effluent. Yes, there's an eventual discharge.
So about a month ago, we were still having issues, right? Still trying to iron out and work out some things. Well, really, since last year in January, there was a list. You gave us like a list of, you said that you had reduced the items from like 150 plus items to double digits. So I guess I'm trying to understand, when did the testing happen? Because I don't remember us talking about we were in testing.
The testing happened in the April timeframe. We took the plant on, we took seed supply from the city of Austin. We seeded the plant. It ran for operational purposes in the mid-April timeframe. If you recall, we had an April 1 start date, but like everything else with this plant, when we had the electrical storm, it was hit by electricity and took SCADA and everything out, so that delayed. And then we had a chlorine treatment delay. So we were shooting for an April 30th start date. That's been in your reports. We were shooting for an April 30th start date, and it got delayed to about May 15th.
Yeah, I just didn't recall during that time you saying that we were testing. So, and from what I read online, that's like a 3-month process.
It's been undergoing, so it's had water. We've tested, we put water in it way back in about January. We resolved some of the issues. The things that took it to substantial completion is the plant being operational. There are probably 3 large things that are still not complete, but they have no effect on the treatment itself.
So can we get a copy of the sampling
Sure.
results by tomorrow, hopefully, maybe, if I can read it? On your city manager's reports, I've been emailing you about those getting online. I don't know if you were not understanding what I was asking, but I would like to be able to go back and review your city manager reports, and there's a folder for them, but that folder still only has a copy from September.
Sure. So what I handed out to you has a confidential draft on it. Some of that information that's in there is confidential to the city only. So I can't post it online, but I can put it in
No,
your
not online, and our council shared folder is what I've been asking for.
Oh, that's a comment for Ann. We'll make sure it's in there.
Okay. How many gallons are being treated, and at what volume capacity?
Today, the plant has I'm not sure of that because we're only taking partial flows from the existing plant.
Okay.
I can't give you a direct answer, but I'll get with Curtis and email you.
So you talked about substantial completion. One, I wasn't sure what online meant, so I've done a lot of research on the wastewater treatment plant. I've also went back and watched several council meetings. And what I understand of substantial completion is that we are supposed to send a letter to the contractor. There's supposed to be a walkthrough. And I do know that you had scheduled some walkthroughs that I could not attend. But it wasn't clear to me who performed or who led the walkthrough.
So city staff performed along with a management consultant that we have who is a specialist in wastewater treatment. That was a couple of city manager updates to you ago. The substantial completion, those are going to be items in litigation. As I mentioned, we have mediation scheduled toward the end of the month. The administration building is still having AC issues, so that's an item. The stormwater outfall has failed completely, so that's also an item. And then there are smaller punch list items like the chlorine room. The door to the chlorine room has just a tack welded piece of metal, and it's not, for what we paid for that plant, it is not substantially complete. So there's about some items like that that don't affect this plant being online, but we did multiple walkthroughs to whittle down that list.
Wouldn't the door, though, the chlorine door that you referred to, because that's hazardous, yeah?
Yes, and they tack welded a piece of metal, but there's an actual door on an overhang that should be there. And they cut the door opening wrong, and so in an effort to fix it, because the door has a long lead time, they did a tack weld.
So our guys, the city did the substantial completion walkthrough.
Along with a PE.
Along with who?
A PE, an engineer, a certified engineer. And we also worked with KSA and we worked with BAR.
Because I read something, and I forget the technical name for it, that said KSA has to perform the walkthrough.
No, that's incorrect. That's one of the issues that we're in legal with. The contract, as it reads, did not have KSA assist with any of the seed or any of the upstart to the plant.
So by the city performing the walkthrough, we're not in any liable?
We've engaged Jerry Negrete through Allen's firm, and we've had legal every step of the way.
So I do remember you saying that someone you knew from Corpus was going to come down and help with the walkthrough. As a consultant, I guess. But I didn't recall, did we hire him to do that?
Yes,
or
he's under a professional services agreement under $50,000.
Under $50,000. And is he still being used for consultation?
Yes.
And is he being used for other projects?
Nope.
Just, that's the only purpose we're going to use him for, and it was
That
under
is-
$50,000?
That is the
Okay.
project.
So KSA didn't lead the walkthrough.
KSA was at the walkthrough. KSA and BAR both were at the walkthrough. And the issue became what KSA feels is important and not important versus what the contractor should and shouldn't do, and whether a request for information was filed and if the proper documentation was there. So we are actually stuck in the middle of a contractor-engineer issue.
They're differing on what each
Yes.
thought was important
Yes.
and needed to be added to
Yes.
the...
Yes, which is why we engaged legal right off the bat.
So we have not sent a completion letter. I didn't hear your answer on that.
Substantial completion,
Yeah.
no, we are not at substantial
We are
completion.
not at that
We have
point.
partial substantial completion that allows us to turn this plant online.
And
And
then
that
it-
was sent by Jerry Negrete.
And
the
then
Chapman
my
law
last
firm.
question is, you had mentioned one time that there was 100 change orders. I was wondering, do we pay for that, or what's our
There's a
cost?
lot of things in this plant that are going to be the subject of litigation as to whether we should or shouldn't have paid for it. There's some contractors on different parts of the line that had to demobilize because this plant wasn't ready, and so there are ongoing costs that are in dispute.
And when do you feel we'll be fully using that treatment plant at full capacity?
Well, if we were to have done the transfer lift station correctly and acquired the land before we sent it out to be engineered, if we would have turned on that transfer lift station, this plant would have been at capacity already. So thank God for small favors that only a portion of that flow is heading this way.
What I'm asking is, you said we're partially pumping.
Mm-hmm.
When do you feel we will be fully using that plant?
I'm not sure, because the plan is to send the portion of those flows, take a portion of the old plant down to rehab it, then send the flows back to that portion of the old plant, take that next section of the old plant down, rehab that. And so it's a constant transfer back and forth.
Year?
Well, the transfer lift station project is 7 years overdue, Councilmember Lee.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We will now move to Item 11A, I'll read it again. Discussion and direction to staff regarding proposed City of Bastrop charter amendments for the November 2024 election. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The propositions before you are A through M. The initial propositions, the City Council visited back in 2022, and because there was not a contested election, opted not to go through the election process to amend those. Many of the changes are just alignment with state law. Proposition A is conforming by removing reference to the city's power to annex territory without consent. We don't have that power anymore. We don't have the ability to unilaterally annex. The proposition B is conforming with state law, creating a vacancy on the city council when a council member announces their candidacy for other elected offices, and that term exceeds 1 year and 30 days. Proposition C is amending to authorize the city council to waive by an affirmative vote of 4 or more council members the requirement that an ordinance be read in 2 separate meetings. There is no legal requirement to do that. Proposition D, that the charter be amended to reflect the fact that the technical codes are available free and digitally free of charge. E is the charter be amended to reflect the fact that ordinances are available free and digitally, again, free of charge. F, conforming with state law by stating that the term of office of the municipal court judge shall be provided for by ordinance. Proposition G, that the charter be amended to conform with state law by requiring a petition calling for initiative or referendum elections to comply with the Texas Election Code. Proposition H, that the charter be amended to conform with state law by requiring petitions calling for recall elections to comply with the Elections Code. I, that the number of planning and zoning commissioners be established by ordinance. J, that the charter shall sections 403 and 404 be repealed in their entirety as outdated transitional provisions. Proposition K, replacing gender-specific language like he and she with they and their. Proposition L, allowing myself or future city managers to reside in the city limits and the 1 mile extraterritorial jurisdiction. Proposition M, amended to allow the mayor or 2 council members to appoint to boards and commissions subject to confirmation of the city council. And you have complete explanations in your packets. Again, L and M are the 2 most recent. The others are all carryover from your prior charter language initiative.
Council, have any questions for our city manager? Councilmember Lee. Councilmember Plunkett.
I just wanted to check with Alan to make sure, are there any new laws that have been passed by the legislature that would require some more modifications? We might as well get those in at the same time.
No, Mayor and Council, I'm not aware of any new laws that were passed in 2023 that would conflict with our charter.
Councilmember Lee.
Okay, that was actually on my question list. I also wanted to know, Alan, if you were engaged in the development of any of these propositions.
Everything before L&M is something that we put together in 2022 for the previous council to consider. L, we talked about when we put forth before the council a resolution that gave the city manager some flexibility when it comes to housing until a charter amendment was put before the voters. And I'm not familiar with M.
I don't remember there being that many, but okay. So, let me see here. So, and I've always misunderstood or not gotten a great understanding of this, but whenever charter amendments are made that impact, I guess, the council members or the mayor, for instance, And the example that I've always questioned is if the council were to do an amendment to raise the salary of council members, that would not go into effect for the current council. It would go into effect for the next council, or how does that work?
That's correct. There's actually some state law that says things such as a salary change will not go into effect for incumbents until they're granted a new term by being reelected.
So there's specific, it's the specific as to what that would apply to. Because I'm wondering if that applies to the change in the mile radius for the city manager and the appointment, mayor appointing. Would that mayor appointment be pushed to the next mayor because he is the sitting mayor?
There's a generic provision in the code regarding the transitional items that would say that changes to the charter do not affect people that were in office at that time. As for the city manager's residency, I think a change in the charter would apply to the city manager at that time.
So the mayor appointment would not apply. He would still, throughout the remaining of his term, be able to appoint and council confirm. That would go into effect for the next mayor?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, great. So Sylvia, or city manager, who were the authors of these propositions? Did you write these propositions? I know that Alan just said that some of these were discussed, and I do remember us discussing. I don't remember this amount of items that we discussed.
These are all carryovers. This is a copy and paste job from 2022 with the exception of Proposition M. And Proposition M came from a conversation with council members that I have every single week on the appointment.
So that's going to be my next question, because I don't meet with you every single week, and I don't recall getting an email asking if we had any amendments that we'd like to add. So I do have some that I'd like to add, because we're taking suggestions, right?
Correct. This
Right.
is the workshop to take suggestions. Yes.
So the residents that have reached out to me have all been concerned or want to know why are we rushing this for the November ballot? Because when the initial charter was formed, there was a committee. When the revisions were done in 2010, there was a committee. Many residents that have reached out to me said, and I also feel there should be a committee. This is a large amount of amendments. I have asked this council body several times over the last year, should we form a charter review committee? And it was met with silence. And now we have 13 charter amendments. And a very opinionated community that I feel like would want to give input to the charter amendments. So one, I'd like to request this be done as a committee, via committee review, a review committee. I think people in the audience will be asking for that as well.
Councilmember Lee, perhaps the city attorney can answer that, because he did answer that in a legal memo to the council, whether a committee was required
I didn't see that
or
memo.
not.
Mayor, council, we had a brief discussion about this a couple months ago when we discussed the city manager's residency requirements. And state law does not require that there be a citizens charter review commission or committee in order to put possible amendments in front of the voters. So state law is silent on that point. Our charter is silent on that point, so it's not required by our own charter. So whether we do create some sort of citizen committee to review the charter and make recommendations to the council is a policy decision for the city council to make.
And I understand the state law says that, and I was merely saying my recommendation is that we form a committee.
So and just to give you some context, because again, this is mostly a copy and paste job, the memo that he wrote at that point, the council decided not to form a committee, but they also decided not to take it to the voters because there was no election in place. And so this is a workshop. This is a opportunity for comments, and the next item is to give staff direction. So your points are well taken.
In 2022, though, to be fair, we decided since they weren't earth-shattering amendments, we wanted to save the city $10,000 to $25,000 for having a special election because we had 2 council seats that were unopposed.
And the November election would be approximately $25,000.
Yep.
So that's the other point that's been made is why pay $25,000 in November when we have an election in May? That's $25,000 that we would not have to spend by putting it on the May ballot. So Alan, I have another question for you. So when and if, when these come back as charter amendments for the ballot, do we get to vote as a council? Do we vote? Can we vote on each proposition, whether or not we want to see that on the ballot, or is it just one fell swoop, approve them or deny them?
You as a council, when adopting an ordinance calling a special election on whether to amend the charter, will have the opportunity to decide which propositions to put before the voters. So whether the propositions are drafted by staff, they are proposed by a charter review commission, or they're just council ideas, the council will vote on which ones to put before the voters. And then the voters will have a chance whether to approve the proposition or reject it.
And we will be able to vote on each individual proposition, not one group.
I think procedurally, you'll have that opportunity.
Okay.
Normally, through discussions that we have in open and closed session, we put together a slate of propositions to put forward. If someone has an objection to one of those propositions, then perhaps council will pull that apart for separate discussion and a vote on it.
Or we can ask, kind of like consent agenda?
Certainly.
Okay, something like that. Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam City Manager, on the Proposition M, what was the reasoning stated by the council members that requested this to have competing appointees or appointments?
I'd have to let you talk to Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland and the others. The issue with confirmation, as I see it, and it may or may not be written correctly, is we do interviews once a year in October, and then when there's a vacancy, there's no interview process for fit. So however we work that out, either through process or the charter amendment, but I'm happy to.
Well, the interviews were not spelled out either in our policy and procedures nor in our charter. They were something that the previous administration had said to get the council members' engagement in there to help us determine who might fit best on our boards and commissions. So that is a construct that had no official standing in place. But I'd be real interested as to why we would have competing appointments. I would entertain that explanation from anybody on the dais.
So from before, excuse me, before I served on council through now, I have received feedback from, I don't know, let's say 5 or 6 people. I don't want to make it bigger than it really is. A handful of individuals who have expressed concerns about the way that mayors have historically appointed people to boards and commissions, and that they felt like that if there was a greater number of people making those selections, and there's a bunch of different ways to do it. Some cities have each council member make a specific appointment, and I mean, it's really any reasonable way of doing it is allowable. And as I looked at this, I mean, you could just say that for instance, that it would be done by ordinance, so that it would give the body complete flexibility to set it in any way that they want, and in fact change it if they wanted to. But I kind of felt like I still wanted the mayor to take the lead on it, but then to provide an opportunity for a relief valve that says that, you know, if there's maybe some empty seats, there's an opportunity for 2 council members to be able to submit names for those. So by having the mayor taking the lead and being able to singly put names up, or 2 council members to put names up, it provided, in my opinion, a potential way to resolve some of the issues that have been spoken of with me.
I'm still unclear what the issues were that has been presented to you that would make such a, in my mind, a dramatic change in how appointments are made to boards and commissions.
Okay.
So, you have nothing else to add to that?
Excuse me, not on that item, no.
But it seems to me, counsel, this creates a scenario where you have competing appointments that will be presented to council for consideration. Two council members are only one vote away from confirming the council members' appointment list. And it seems like to me, with the mayor not having a vote and the council having the power of confirmation to the mayor's appointments, this seems like a unnecessary amendment. I would also like to address the issue relative to, understand there is no requirement to have a committee or commission, but our city charter is a people's document. It's our constitution here in the city, and the greater input that we have relative to that charter from our citizens, the better off we are as a representative body. And I'm going to encourage this council that we appoint a committee or a commission, whatever we want to call it. I will be more than happy to entertain suggestions from each one of council relative to who they would like to see on that committee or commission. I will caution you that too large of a committee or commission creates some problems. I'm going to suggest between 7 and 9 members of that, but I believe it's something, if we're going to be truly an open council, that we need to provide that opportunity for our citizens to have input and make recommendations relative to the changes in our city's constitution or charter. Does anybody have any additional questions or comments for our city manager before we open it up for public comment? Councilmember Lee, your light is still on.
I just want to piggyback on that Proposition M. So Alan just clarified that this would go into effect for the next mayor. I too don't see the purpose of it because the mayor only appoints and the council confirms. We do interview the applicants. We do have the privilege of being able to interview the applicants, and we even have people put in applications and write our name that we are recommending them. So I'm in agreement with the mayor on that. I didn't fully understand, Mayor Pro Tem, your reasoning for wanting to have this one on there. I just don't see the point because we ultimately make the decision anyway.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further comments, questions prior to asking our citizens to make comment?
So just a question for Councilmember Lee, because you said you had some additional ones you wanted to add. Will you email those to me so that we can begin to work on
Tell them to you after citizens' comments.
No, that's fine, but so that we can begin to work the language or work.
I will email them, but I'll still say publicly what I think they should be.
Okay.
Councilmember Foster, your light was on momentarily. Did you? Thank you. Thank you. Seeing no further indication, I will call. We have 2 or 3 people want to speak on this item. The first one to speak on this item is Carol Spencer. If you'll come to the podium, state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes, ma'am. 3 minutes.
My name's Carol Spencer. I live at 126 Brazos Drive, Cedar Creek. I can't vote for any of you, but I have sat as a mayor in a municipality of 16,000 people, and I spent 6 years as a councilwoman. And so I went to your agenda for something else, and I found this, and I just was interested. So I have a couple of comments to make. I do follow the legislature, and in the last session, they passed SB 2038. That was effective 9/1/2023. And it, in the accepted areas that's exempt from that law, does not mention a 1-mile ETJ. So I leave it to your lawyers to talk about this, but if people can now exempt themselves out of an ETJ, and that 1-mile statutory ETJ is not exempted from that law, then logic would say to me that your city manager could buy a house in the ETJ, and then that neighborhood could pull themselves out of that ETJ, and then you've got your city manager basically living anywhere. So I just throw that out. I'm not a lawyer. I did read the statute before I made those comments. The other thing is my career was in IT, and I served as a digital and social media manager for a county in another state. And I'm concerned that none of these things that talk about putting things online talk about searchable data online. If you scan a document, all you have out there is black and white dots. And if I do Control F on a PDF that is scanned, I cannot search it. And I would urge you to think about that. I don't see that here. As a former mayor, granted in another state, I have a problem with two entities doing appointments. Everything that I appointed had to have advice and consent of the council, but I did all the appointments. And I think it would have been crazy to have had them be able to do appointments as well. And I think you should have a commission. You've just sat here, and Councilmember Lee, you came up with more suggestions. You know, I used to say that I don't have all the solutions to everything. I love citizen committees because they're out talking to all their neighbors. You know, I may have some ideas, and I actually do. I think you're getting big enough. You need geographical representation sitting on your city council, that everybody shouldn't be elected at large. You're going to have very different desires in very different neighborhoods. So I think you really ought to have a committee put together of people who can bring that to the table and put it on the November ballot. Put it on the November ballot. I mean, put it on the May ballot. I'm sorry, put it on the May ballot. I'm also presiding judge for early voting ballot board, and there are way too many elections, so don't create another one. Your May ballot is when people are thinking city. They're thinking ISD, they're thinking city, and I think that's where it ought to be. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next person scheduled to speak on this agenda item is the Honorable Connie Schrader, former mayor of the city of Bastrop.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have to say it's a lot more fun on this side than that side, but really appreciate each one of you and the work that you put into it. Real quickly, he didn't mention it, but I wrote both for and against, and it's not because I have a split personality, but it's because there's things I'm for and things I would ask you to maybe consider. I'm all for the charter review. I think it was a good idea to save $25,000 in 2022, and I think it's an even better idea to save $25,000 in 2024, so I would encourage you to do that. I'm also a proponent of having the review committee, just because it's not required. Meeting minimum legal requirements doesn't mean that there's not a real spirit of community, and I thought the idea of the searchable scanned document is, I mean, we're getting great ideas, but it's real hard to get all of those great ideas in 3 minutes at a public hearing when not everybody reads all of the packet of the agenda. So I just think that we'll be better off if we have more people. I am totally for the generic and the conform with state law, and that can keep you from having to do another charter revision because they meet every 2 years and they change things. So if you just say we're following state law, I completely support that. I also was going to bring up Senate Bill 2038, and I know that in past legislative sessions there was discussions about eliminating the extraterritorial jurisdiction, because before it was defined as where the city would be able to annex unilaterally, and does it even still mean anything? So if you're introducing a term and if you have a November election, it could be made void with the 2025 legislature. So I would encourage you to think about that. I'm for the resign to run. That was one that had been there for a long time, and I worked with all of the city managers that I knew and got to know, all thought resigning to run is smoother and a good idea. I would also like to make 2 other ideas, but I have to give Gary Schiff credit for one of them. In 2022, Gary Schiff had made the comment, and it may not have been exactly that year, but he said, we really need to look at what council members and mayors get paid. There are folks in the community that think you make thousands and thousands of dollars, and I know firsthand that it's $150 for the mayor and $75 for council member, and that's before taxes are taken out. It's possibly the smallest 1099 I ever turned in, but if you look at the other cities in the county, it's very different, and since you're not voting on a raise for yourself, I would encourage you to take a look at that. I'm not suggesting that you make tons and tons of money, but $75 is for each of you, and the time that you spend doesn't really seem commiserate. And the other one that I would like to add is that 3 voting council members be considered a quorum, because 3 voting council members can make decisions, and I don't think we should manage the city with one act plays. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Next person scheduled to speak on this item is Debbie Moore. If you'll approach the podium. Provide us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Debbie Moore. I live at 1306 Church Street in Bastrop, Texas. I'm not going to talk to you about any of the individual amendments that are proposed. I come at it from a little different angle. Because during my almost 20 years of living here, I've had the privilege of serving on a number of boards and commissions, beginning with the original Main Street Board, the Downtown Business Alliance, where I chaired the Veterans Car Show for 3 years, and we brought tens of thousands of people to shop in our shops and enjoy our city. What else? Planning and zoning, y'all might remember that. I was on there for 11 years and served as chair for most of them. But the committee that I'm proudest that I served on is the Charter Review Committee, because I had the opportunity to sit with like-minded citizens. We were chaired very aptly by then council member Ken Kesselis, and each council member nominated 2 people to sit on the commission. And what we did was we took the charter from the first page to the last page, and we reviewed it. Then we thought about it. What would we like to see? Did we have questions? What did we like? What didn't we like? We had open hearing, open meetings. People came and gave us ideas. Some flew, some didn't flow. But in the days that there's such a lack of trust in government at all levels, you need the city residents not have their constitution changed by a vote of 3 people. It needs to be open, it needs to be participatory, and it needs to take time. And we don't need to cost the city $25,000 and have it in November. There is not one thing on here that you're proposing that is a rush. Nothing has to be done. We can put it on the May ballot, like other people have said, and save us a whole lot of money. And as far as why, well, I don't understand why you would rush. Why you would rush. Take your time. Make the things that we could consider when a committee, these A through M, make it part of what we consider. It would always come back to you for final decision anyway, but make it an open and open discussion of the city's constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. That's the end of our public comments or signed to speak. Does anybody have any additional questions for our city manager? If not, I'm looking for concurrence. I would like to propose that we instruct staff to come back with a resolution stating the formation of a charter committee or commission. I will leave it to our legal staff to make a determination what might be the best name for that, as well as to hold a May election to save the city that additional $25,000, as well as give us a little bit more time to discuss within the community as well as up on the dais. Looking for concurrence. Councilmember Lee.
I concur.
Councilmember Fossler? I'm
I
not looking
concur.
for- I'm not looking for a vote, just looking for a nod of the head, perhaps.
Just to clarify, Mayor, so when you say staff prepare, like, is staff going to decide then how it's going to be done? I mean, I'm kind of unclear about the process of everything since we've never, and I've only been on here a year, so I wasn't in discussion before on any kind of commission, so I just need information on how that would happen.
I can certainly help. Staff always prepares the resolutions for our consideration. So I'm asking them, based upon the concurrence of this body, to come back with a resolution that spells out those two issues that I named. One is that we needed to name a commission or committee to look at, to do a charter review, and two, that we hold our charter election at the same time we hold our city council elections, which would be in May.
So the whole process would be exactly like we do then? They prepare the resolution, then we would vote on the resolution?
We would discuss and
Okay.
consider and vote. Yes, ma'am.
So just so I'm clear, so that Alan and I prepare the right thing. So what I heard is a charter commission that has nominations from each of the council members.
I think I was looking for a concurrence because I'd like to move to the consideration of each council member present a minimum of 2 people they would like to be on the charter review, and we would look at those collaboratively and collectively before I make my decision on who to appoint, and certainly the council would then confirm those appointments.
Okay.
And I'm looking for a 7 to 9 member committee.
Alan, you got that? Because even though the mayor says staff, it's not staff that prepares that, it's legal.
And that's what my question was,
Yeah.
because I really, like I haven't researched anything. I don't know how other towns do it. This being brought up, so I can't comment on this because I don't know how, Alan, how do other towns do that have commissions?
Usually, mayor and council, the process is dictated in your charter itself, whether each council member gets an appointee or the council votes on the entire group. I've seen charter commissions as small as 5 and as big as 9. Some, larger metropolitan areas will have in the teens or 20s. There really is no one way to do it. So if what the mayor is saying goes forward tonight, I'd be working with your city manager and city secretary to put together a draft resolution providing for membership, what their duties are, what the timeline would be, some of the issues to look at, and you'd get a copy of that in advance, and you could make amendments to it if you wish. If in fact you're going for May 2025, there's not the rush that we thought there may be, but you'd still want to get started on it because these things can take a while.
Agreed.
As proposed, Mayor, is that what you're proposing, 2 people per council member of a committee of 10?
I think because of the various audiences that we oftentimes visit with, I think having optimum input from council on who they would like to see on a charter review commission is certainly something we want to do because we want to make it as open a process as we possibly can.
And I want to just state the obvious, residents. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It has to be residents. I mean, citizens, I know we have a lot of input from people sometimes who live outside the periphery or live in the periphery of the city, but it has to be residents because it's their document. It's the city charter. Yes. Thank
Okay.
you for the clarification.
So that means not an ETJ then, like boards and commissions can be on?
Our 9.5 square mile city limits.
Okay, city limits.
Yes,
As
ma'am.
defined. Gotcha.
They pay city taxes, so they need to have a say-so in this.
Thank you.
So it looks like, city manager and city attorney, that's the input from council is that we come back on the 28th with a draft resolution spelling out the things that we've already spelled out, the election date for consideration, as well as a charter review committee. Did y'all need any further instructions from us? Mr. City Attorney?
I'll have that ready for you, Mayor.
Outstanding, thank you. Councilmember Lee?
So I'm assuming then all of these propositions would be under this for review by that committee.
Yes.
And once the committee is formed, what input does council have into that? Is there a liaison appointed? Do we state our opinions on the propositions? What does that look like?
My feeling is we allow that body to operate as independently as possible to make their recommendations so they don't have any sort of biased opinion from council. Certainly, they are welcome to go to each one of the council members as well as to staff to make a determination of whether or not this is allowed under legal circumstances, this is administratively possible, just for clarification. But we want that body of our citizens to operate as an independent body as much as possible, make the recommendations to this council for us to take into consideration to act on what's best for this city moving forward.
And they could accept some of these or none of these propositions that are before us today, correct?
That's why we're leaving it up to them.
Okay, I have the three that I would like added, City Manager, is the quorum of 3. Rotation of Mayor Pro Tem. And language that actually establishes a charter commission review every 6 years. Thank you.
Do we have that, Mr. City Attorney, Madam City Manager?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Seeing none indicated. Thank y'all so much for the input. I'm sorry.
I'm late.
Councilmember
I'm
Fossler.
late. For Cheryl's quorum of 3, I believe it would make more sense, be clear for the mayor to not count towards the quorum in that quorum of 3. That's what I would like to see.
Okay. Thank you. Any input's valuable. Seeing no other discussion indicated, we will move on with our agenda. We've already taken care of 12A. We will move to our citizens' comments. Our first person signed up for citizen oh boy, more. Thank you.
Mayor, will you be discussing the tabling of the planning and zoning item?
Yes, ma'am. We will be moving to that. Excuse me, just a moment. I was handed this note. Okay, first person to speak on citizen comments is Mr. Gary Moss. Mr. Moss, if you'll approach the podium, give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Gary Moss, 1706 Wilson Street. I want to talk about pickleball. Today, we had our first games at Fisherman's Park. I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Jimmy Crouch, council member that played a big part in getting this thing done down there. We resurfaced the tennis court and stropped it off tennis as well as pickleball. And we had a nice group come down today and start playing and stuff. And I also want to thank Terry Moore for her help and consideration and get this thing done. We appreciate it. And we're having fun. Come on down.
That is Gary Pickleball Moss. Thank you, sir. Next person scheduled to speak on citizen comments is Pablo Serna. Name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Mayor and City Council, go ahead and read this. So I got, when a small town becomes a small city, there's a point in time when a small town like Bastrop becomes a small city, and then again when that small city becomes a bigger city. So we're at that moment in history. It's at this point when the city leadership, together with its citizens, need to slow it down, look at what makes Bastrop special, and ask questions like why do people come here, what is authentic Bastrop, and just try to better understand Bastrop's DNA. So Bastrop started this assessment in 2001 with the master plan, then again in 2014 with the introduction of the form-based code to protect the character of our historic downtown, and then again 2016 with the comprehensive master plan and the 2016 future land use plan, all of which led to a major overhaul of the land development code in 2019 with the unanimous passage of the B3 codes that incorporated the previous efforts and codified the current zoning now in use today. So thousands of people spent countless number of hours, met late and met on weekends and came together, all in an effort to put forth a vision for this moment in time for Bastrop. So city leaders like former Mayor Connie Schroeder took a bold step and put a pause on development until the female flood maps could be updated. So that was the right thing to do then. That was the right thing to do then, and we are at an equally perilous moment today. It's obvious to everyone that the natural beauty of Bastrop, starting with the Lost Pines Forest, the Houston Toad, the Colorado River, and the state park together with our designation as a bird city, make Bastrop a unique place in central Texas. It is vital then that city leaders need to protect and even conserve the natural beauty that is important, as important to Bastrop as the historic district and the old Iron Bridge. There are many ways to do this. We can establish scenic corridors to control outdoor advertising. We could set aside open spaces and update the fire code to protect the forest from rapid development. Most important, however, is your vote to deny intense commercial development where it does not belong, especially in these special, beautiful places. So this evening you will have that opportunity to do something historic. Please save the Lost Pines. No compromise.
Thank you, sir. Next person to speak in citizen comments is Matt Myers. Mr. Myers, if you'll approach the podium, give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Matt Myers, live at 901 Cripple Creek Drive in Austin, and I'm a senior account executive for the public sector for WM or Waste Management in Austin, and I manage franchise contracts for WM in Central Texas. The city of Bastrop issued an RFP for trash and recycling collection services, and that was issued April 30th. And the biggest concern is the start date for services of August 31st. So WM and other respective companies, we don't have the inventory of containers, residential carts, front-load containers. With 3,700 residents, we need to order 7,400 carts, and we'd prefer to order new carts, and with supply chain, that can take 2 to 3 months to get those carts once a PO is issued. For your front-load containers, it's 288 commercial front-load containers, and that takes time to get those prepped and ready and delivered. For the drivers, we currently don't have drivers on staff, and we would need to hire drivers to service your community. And there's been a nationwide driver shortage, and the type of drivers that we hire at Waste Management have to have impeccable safety records and have to get comfortable driving these automated side load trucks and front load trucks to service communities safely. So I would highly encourage and for the city to change the RFP due date from May 30th to Friday, June 28th, and the start date for services from August 31st to Tuesday, December 31st. This will increase your chances that you're going to get as many competitive proposals as possible with comprehensive, effective transition plans. So the transition, if you do decide to make a change, is a smooth one. So I highly recommend that. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam City Manager, the August 31st date is to be compatible with our fiscal year, am I correct?
The August 31st date is contractual related with our current contract that we've been in discussions with. The council is always able to modify a start date through contract negotiations.
Outstanding. Thank you. Thank you. Certainly of the city manager, yes.
Yes. So if our contract with our current provider ends in August and we don't do a start date until December, how does that work? How will we?
We'll do a month to month or something similar.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Thank you. Next person scheduled to speak in the citizen comments, and I think you still want to speak, Carol Spencer. Name and address, you'll have 3 minutes.
Carol Spencer, 126 Brazos Drive, Cedar Creek. I touched on this before. Y'all use MuniCode for your online code, but when you go out to your agendas, your agenda packets, those are all searchable PDFs, but your minutes are not. I have some familiarity both with Civic Plus and with MuniCode, and I know MuniCode can do that, and they can index your minutes if they're searchable. And I'll just tell you, I have 2.5 minutes. I'm going to tell you a funny story, only it wasn't so funny when it happened. We put up searchable PDFs, and somebody got elected as county commissioner director. And that person, when I wrote back to their clerk and said, hey, you just sent me scanned PDFs, I can't put those up, nobody can search them. That director actually made my department take down 2 years of minutes that were searchable and put them back up as non-searchable minutes because he didn't want the public to be able to search those minutes. Okay? I almost lost an employee over that because she was ready to resign. The public really can't use anything that's a PDF unless you make it searchable. If they want to go through and see how many times you guys have discussed swimming pool, how do they do it when the minutes are not searchable? They can't. They have to have some idea of maybe when you might have discussed it. And if somebody's new to the community, they have to go through every single set of minutes and read them to try to find that. So I don't know whether it's a budgetary item. You're using good software. Let me say that. You're using really good software. Typically, council people don't get in the weeds with what you're using or not using. I don't know if it's a budgetary issue, but I would really urge you to make your minutes searchable. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That is all the sign-ups for citizen comments. We will now move to item 14A, approval of minutes. Madam City Secretary, I will go ahead and read this. Consider action to approve city council meetings from April 23rd, 2024, regular meeting, and April 29th, 2024, special meeting. Council, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Meyer and a second by Councilmember Lee. Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee? Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler?
I'll recuse myself since I wasn't here.
Thank you, Council. Motion passes. We'll move on to item 15 and item 15A. Hold a public hearing and consider action to approve the first reading of ordinance number 2024-11, the City Council, City of Bastrop, Texas, approving the zoning change for 31.4559 plus or minus acres out of A1 Bastrop Town Tract, Bastrop County, Texas, more commonly known as Bastrop Gateway, from P2 Rural and P5 Core to Planned Development District with P5 Core Base zoning as shown in attachment 2, providing for findings of fact, providing for repealer, providing for severability, providing for enforcement, providing for proper notice and meeting, and establishing an effective date and move to include on the May 28, 2024 consent agenda for second reading. Council, as you well know, we did not get to view the packet and the information in the ordinance. It was not in our original packet. It was provided to us last week. Our citizens have not had a chance, nor have we, really to review what's before us now, and I would hope that we would table this item later on. However, we have a large group of citizens here. If they wish to speak on this, they showed up, took out of their time on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon to come out and provide comment, and I would like to provide them the opportunity to do so. That being said, unless I have an objection from y'all and further discussion, I'm going to Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
I don't know why my throat's not working, but Alan, my question, the suggestion from the mayor, the table, I know that we had to post a meeting and have a public hearing in terms of this item going on an agenda 2 weeks from now. what requirements do we have? Like, for instance, do we open a public hearing and leave it open till then? Do we close it? Like, what are the techniques to table it if we were to do that?
Certainly. Because we posted a public meeting and we advertised that meeting by sending notices, we have the opportunity to have a public hearing tonight, whether the city council chooses to act on the item or not. But because you have the opportunity to have a hearing doesn't obligate you to have a hearing. So you have a choice whether to go forward with the hearing or not. If you choose to have the hearing today because it was noticed and people have shown up, then I would suggest that you open the hearing, you listen to those who want to speak, and then continue the hearing to a future meeting, date certain, let's name the meeting, and that way you do not have to re-advertise or repost.
Thank you.
Some citizens may choose to speak tonight because they're here. Some may choose to wait until they hear the changes that are coming.
Okay, thank you.
Staff would also really like a date certain because it's expensive to advertise. And if
Yes.
we don't have a date certain, we'll incur that expense again.
Yeah, hopefully that'll be included into the motion on that. Councilmember Meyer.
Thank you, Mayor. So another question I have about that is, since the Planning and Zoning Commission met Thursday and had a packet that they voted on, and that packet is different from the packet that we have, how does the Planning and Zoning need to review that again, or how does that work?
Legally, projects are allowed to change in between P&Z and council. That is part of the process. You listen, you hear things at P&Z, you modify it, and it goes to city council. So the fact that it has changed does not require it by law to go back to council, but as a policy choice, council could choose to do that.
So part of the motion on the 28th would be that we could remand it back to P&Z.
You could.
Thank you. Okay. It is 7:48 and the public hearing is open. The first one scheduled to speak on this is Jennifer Beck. Name and address, and you have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Jennifer Beck, 156 Nunn Lane in Cedar Creek. We are all open to development. We know that Bastrop is growing, it's going to continue to grow, but we do need reasonable and responsible development. This particular development gateway, Bastrop Gateway, in my opinion, is too dense. It is currently P2, which I realize is a rural designation, interim designation, and it has to be rezoned before anything can be developed there. But they're going from that to not P3 or P4, which is neighborhood and neighborhood mixed, but they're going straight to P5 core. And in addition, they're asking for variances to that. P5 is the most dense zoning district, and they're asking for even more than what's allowed under P5. For example, P5 is 80% max impervious cover, and they're asking for phase 1 and 2 of their development to be 90% impervious cover. P5 max height is 5 floors. They're asking in their development for 8 stories and for one building to be 12 stories. The Planning and Zoning Commission in their previous packet, I haven't seen this last one, said that they were allowed to make the zoning request because the future land use of this area is transitional. And I argue that this kind of development with this kind of density is not transitional. It is more like a downtown dense urban core with 8-story buildings and 90% impervious cover. And let's not forget that this area is part of the Lost Pines Forest as well as Houston toad habitat. I don't see how that's appropriate to go to 90% impervious cover in that kind of environment. Our character, I mean, Bastrop is home of the Lost Pines, right? We can't just chop down 90% of a 30-acre site, in my opinion. I just don't think this is transitional. I think it's too dense, and the zoning needs to be revised. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next person scheduled to speak is Stephen Bagel.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Stephen Beagle. I am the architect and land planner associated with Bastrop Gateway. We are here tonight to say that we are working still on our proposal. What you received yesterday and earlier today is a severe revision, a remarkable revision to what was reviewed by P&Z last Thursday, and it continues to evolve. We are very sensitive to the Lost Pines neighborhood. We've met several times with the neighbors. We had that very large hearing at the convention center back in April, and we're taking everything that has been said seriously. I'm going to go personal for just a moment and indicate this. It was 70 years ago tonight that I was born in Carthage, Texas, a little town near Longview up in the piney wood. So that is significant to me to be the architect on a project that involves Lost Pines. The message I'd like to convey is that we are your neighbors. We are Texans. I grew up singing Home on the Range with my family. My mother's favorite flower was the yellow rose. We're here to be good neighbors and to make this project suitable for Bastrop and to fit in. And with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, and happy birthday.
And thank you for the cake.
Next person scheduled to speak on this item is Pablo Serna. Wishes to speak in opposition. Again, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Yes. Pablo Serna, 1104 Hill Street, Bastrop, Texas. Happy birthday. I do believe that this could be a really nice thing. I just want to contend with you that it's not there. It can't be there. The top of that hill, you can see it as you drive over the highway. A lot of people see that and they know they're coming home. And we don't need a building to tell us where we're going. We can see those pine trees and know exactly where we're at. So I drive that every day. I work in Austin, come home to Bastrop, and I love that. I love seeing that ridge line. So this really is about what's appropriate and where it's appropriate. I've made a case that we've been thinking about development for quite a while. We're very deliberate. We put some plans together. A lot of people worked on it. A lot of people here in this audience worked on it. So it's kind of a ghost from the past. I see the mayor here and Debbie's here. A lot of people worked on this. And at no point in time did we ever think that we would put the Lost Pines and the Houston toad habitat on the chopping block. It never occurred to us. It was never in our mind. We knew that when that character district was established, it was called the Lost Pines. And there's a good paragraph in there, I hope you to read it. It talks about the geographic sensibility of that area. And it talks about the Houston toad. So all that's in our B3 code. We knew this. So I'm really trying to appeal to you that it's where this is. There are other places this could happen. There's a lot of other places this could happen. Why this is here, why we're at this point, why, I don't know. I would hope now that with this, you need to send a message. First of all, listen to the people. And second, send a message to the city staff. This is not the place to build. You can do that by just denying it and in its entirety. I beg you just to take a vote right now. Just say, I vote to motion to kill the whole damn thing. You can do that. You can vote it and kill it out. That's what really needs to happen. Somebody needs to take charge. You are the leaders. We're looking to you. We're really at your mercy. A lot of us are. A lot of people worked a lot of hard hours. So, again, it's where it is. I'm sure the architect can do a great job, but I really would hope he do it somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Oh, yeah. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
Wow, outstanding.
The developer.
State your name and address,
Yeah,
please.
Venkat Mali, from Dripping Springs, Texas. Council member Fosler, loved it, good neighbor program. I'm initiating it from a development side. So I'm playing golf in Bastrop for the last 14 years. I love the place. And my daughters were involved in when they lost pines, lost the trees. I don't know how. Okay. And I'm proud of my girls from Westlake High School. So I hike a lot. I do almost all the trails every day. And I do Pikes Peak. Just last October. I love nature. I love trees. And Ian and Shannon, everything you said is right. Everything all of you are saying is right. This is the interesting thing here. As a developer, this is what I'm observing about Bastrop. You own the B3. Citizens approved. Council approved. You own the future zoning use documentation. You own it. You own the PDD process. We are the followers. You tell us what to do, we'll do it. Trees, please preserve. Very important, global warming. We are in deep trouble. Preserve the trees. In other words, if you say build it, traffic study has to be done. I don't know how so many cars will move around, whether you do less development or more development. You need flyovers. You need to build infrastructure. Think carefully about your own city's development and what's pace, but you own it. So what citizens are saying is not wrong. At the same time, a lot more needs to be done. So we are committed to traffic study. Yes, absolutely yes. We are committed to the drainage studies. We will spend money, but only request. If you say rejected, I say you're not welcoming me. If you say approved, but conduct all the studies and then we will tell you to build or not and how much, we are perfectly okay. Plan it well, do it right, take care of the citizens, take care of your people, strike a balance. Nature is very delicate. And one input on toad, because it's a highly misinterpreted subject. I worked with US Fisheries and Wildlife. Do you know how Bucky's got the permit? Does anyone know? There is red imported fire ants in Bucky's lot. Red imported. This is not me. This is US Fisheries and Wildlife. They visited my lots. I got them over. Third-party appraisal. By the way, we spend a lot of time in due diligence even before we buy the land.
You need to finish it up. Your time
So the point I'm making is that the land evidence documentation with the city on RIFA, red imported fire ants, toads will not survive or migrate on these lands. Documents are with you, study it, but ball is back into the council's court. Take care of the city, take care of the nature, take care of the people, please, and we'll cooperate 100%.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Next person scheduled on this is Peter Lee. He does not wish to speak, but he wants to record his opposition to this item. Next person signed up is Jordan Scott. Jordan, if you will approach the podium, give us your name and address, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Jordan Scott. I live at 110 Bowstring Bend in Hunter's Crossing, and I'm also on the Planning and Zoning Board. I come before you today, the City Council and the citizens of Bastrop, to speak in favor of the rezoning of the property that we know as Gateway, and for all other future projects coming to Bastrop, which we know there's a lot coming, and I'm going to be a part of that. I'm speaking in favor of this rezoning for several reasons. I believe this project will bring more benefit to this community than most people initially think or believe. We speak of wanting more affordable housing, yet any time we're presented with opportunities for more housing, opposition arises, often motivated by fear, misunderstanding, and resentment. This project offers a multitude of housing options for people similar to myself who are saving up to eventually buy a home or who just enjoy renting without the stress of owning a home. I need to adjust this. I'm way too tall. Unless we can keep up with the pace of the market, rent prices will go up even faster due to a lack of inventory and high competition. There's a lot of people moving to our town. We speak of needing more stores and retail space to support the growing number of people in the city. This project brings us the ability to add in locations for shopping, entertainment, medical, and even outdoor space we can utilize together, and many other opportunities that are yet to come. We speak of improving our roads, building parks, putting in cultural arts districts for our city. These things aren't free, and they're definitely not cheap. This project can bring upwards of $5 million a year annually in revenue on a yearly basis. We rely on commercial developments like this to fund things that we need and we want as a community without putting the burden on the homeowners through property tax increases. We don't want to drive key projects and developers out into the counties and take away from that potential tax revenue for the city. Finally, I want everyone to know that this is only a rezoning. The developers are required to go through the entire development process, and they're also required to have this speculative plan that they put together for us. Before they even start getting the plat done, they have to have this. They have to get all the studies done, which will give us, the city, ample time for critique and for the developers to make reasonable changes that are compromises between the citizens and the developers. If we don't rezone this property, we're never going to get to that point, and they may move on to go somewhere else. Please consider approve the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next person scheduled to speak is Stephanie Jenkins, who does not wish to speak, but she wants to register her opposition to this item. Next person scheduled to speak is Chris Kirby. Mr. Kirby, if you'll approach the podium, give us your name and address. You'll be given 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members, including our newest one, Carrie. Congratulations, and thank you for letting me speak. Chris Kirby, 33 Lost Pines Avenue. I'm a neighbor to this project because I live on the street between it and the rodeo grounds. I'm also a local attorney and businessman. You all have the tough job of listening often to loud voices, and that's exactly what you should do as our citizen representatives, while also having to do what is best for all of the citizens of Bastrop, not just those on my street, my neighborhood, but all of the citizens of Bastrop. As I said, I live on the street that borders the Gateway Project. That ground is not going to stay the way it is. Under any circumstance, something is going to change. The only question is, what will it become? Now, if you do nothing, or if you deny this project, it could very well, or keep it in P2 rural, what it will become is a single-family home neighborhood, which the developers would likely feel compelled to pack with as many homes as they could in order to try to recoup their investment. Because as an area zoned as P2 rural, which is its current zoning, you have no power, you, the city council, have no power whatsoever to stop the developer from doing just that. If not that, then it might potentially become an RV park like the one that's right up the hill, or who knows what. Those alternatives would be a disaster. That area, situated between Highway 21, Highway 71, and Highway 95, is not a great place for single-family homes. Ours, the homes, mine, and the others of those in the neighborhood are sort of at the base of the triangle. What we're talking about here in this property is really the point of the triangle, the narrow point, sitting right behind a bunch of apartments, right behind Buc-ee's. The traffic concerns that have been expressed about Gateway would be the same for a single-family home development. The property tax revenue collected from it with that use would be negligible, and the sales tax would be zero. On the other hand, if you choose to rezone that area to some form of mixed use like Gateway is proposed, commercial, retail, or multifamily apartments or condos, the city would realize significant property taxes, and it would realize, according to the last speaker, up to $5 million a year in sales tax. The schools, the largest recipients of property taxes, would win. The citizens would win in the form of money to pay for repair of streets, hiring firemen, police, and first responders. Citizens of the city would win in innumerable ways, and the neighborhood would win because we would at least have retail close at hand. Voting down the Gateway project does not mean this area will remain unchanged. That is not an option. As stewards of the city, you must decide when and where you'll allow development within the city. To prevent it simply drives everybody outside the city limits where there's zero control. It does, though, require the city to continue to maintain all the services that all of that development and all of those people create, but the city is given no money as a result of the development with which to do so. For those reasons and others, I'd ask you, as you're considering this, to consider approving the program, which I have not had a chance to take a good look at, but from what I understand, it's been scaled back from that which you've seen previously. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next person signed up is Gay Lee, who wishes not to speak, but she's in opposition to this project. I actually have two of them from Ms. Lee. Next person scheduled is Sally Hodge. Again, does not wish to speak, but is in opposition to this project. Curtis Hodge does not wish to speak, wants to register their opposition to this. Next person scheduled is Carol Spencer. We forgot your name and address, so if you'll repeat it, and you have 3 minutes.
I was going to say, are you tired of me yet? This is why I came to this meeting. I spent 8 years on it. Carol Spencer, 126 Brazos Drive, Cedar Creek. And no, I don't live in the city of Bastrop, but I practically live here because where I am, I either go to Austin for anything I want, or I come here. So I would say that 5, 6, 7 days out of 7, I'm here. I was going to raise the issue of no staff report and no ordinance. I will raise the issue that your title says consent agenda and the staff report says regular agenda. So I think you have to decide, are you going to put this on a consent agenda or a regular agenda? In 8 years on a planning board, my attitude was, after the citizens put together circulation plans, environmental plans, all the rest of the plans that we had to put together every 6 years, that a developer better have a damn good reason as to why they're coming in and looking for a zone change or a variance. Because the citizens have had their input. And when they had their input, our town was under a 20-year sewer ban. You know how much pent-up development there was after a 20-year sewer ban? A lot. But the citizens said, this is what we want our community to look like. I had a rural community that was being inundated with development. And I used to say, I sit in my chair like this, pushing back on what's coming our direction. But the citizens said the way they wanted that community to grow, and that's what they got. Now, I don't know if y'all have looked at USDA soils maps, but sections of this have soils on them, in fact, major sections, that can go from 5 to 20% slopes. Do you know what a 20% slope is? When you're building on a 20% slope and you need a fire engine that's got a bucket or a ladder to go up 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stories, you don't just drive the truck up and up goes the ladder. You have to have plenty of flat land for stabilizers to come out the side of that truck because of the height that that ladder has to go. You've got to consider that. Do you have a ladder truck that can do that? Do you have a bucket truck that can do that? $350,000. I know because we had to buy one. Okay, so I just think, I don't know how you look at these with no topo maps, no nothing, understanding what the soils content is. Are they erodible soils? What are the slopes? I don't know how you make this decision without that. But in my mind, the issue is the citizens came in with a plan. They said, this is what we want to protect our community. And unless there's some really good reason for it, I don't think you should approve this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next person scheduled or registered to speak is Ian Rector Watts. Name and address, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Hello, I'm Ian Reichard Watts. I'm on 13 Lost Pines Avenue. First, I'd like to thank Stephen Beagle and the developers for reaching out and consistently with updates all throughout the weekend as these modifications were being made to it. The modifications are a massive improvement from what we saw last week, I will say. I'm still in opposition for the sole reason of P2 rural. Rural in general is a finite resource. Once you change it, you don't get it back, right? We're not destroying and wrecking buildings and putting nature back, ever. So I think we need to be extremely careful when we make those decisions that are permanent. And not saying that I'm in opposition specifically with this particular version. Honestly, I think this is the most livable version of it yet. However, obviously I would appreciate if we kept our trees. There's always those concerns with erosion from the slopes. We have a mix of sandy loam and there's two different soil types right at that spot. And you can see it easily on my property where there's a biome change, and I've got pines on one side, and then right in the corner it just goes right into oak forest. And it's the same way on y'all's, and I imagine there's going to be some major construction complications with that. Another thing is Lost Pines is the westernmost stand of loblolly pines in the entire United States. And this section right here is maybe the westernmost section of that too. So any erosion pushing that east erodes the westernmost part of that stand. So this is a landmark location for that. You know, there may not be a huge amount of those pines right on there, but that is the point. That is the point right there on this property, you know. And I'll say that 40% impervious cover does a whole lot to help preserve that kind of stuff. And so the P2 section, that strip that the developers have agreed to do right there is massive for preserving that. And I would say if at all possible, if you'd be willing to make that the strip right next to that P2 as well, that might solve a massive amount of these problems in general. You'd be able to solve a lot of your drainage issues right there, right? 60% space, like you could actually use that retaining pond that's already right there. Right now, I believe that's in the P5 section, so that'll get wiped out. But it's better. It's much better, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate Matthew coming up to me and reaching out and saying that he'd like to talk further about that this coming up week. And so I think that kind of discussion with the community is really important for everybody to come to a conclusion that works for everyone. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next person scheduled to speak is Shannon Day. State your name and address, and you have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Shannon Day. I'm at 13 Lost Pines Avenue. So I haven't actually read the new PDD yet. Like Ian said, Stephen did give us updates over the weekend, so we kind of knew the gist of what was happening, but I will say I personally am looking forward to getting into the actual PDD itself, not just the one-page map, and seeing, you know, what the fine print is too. Let's see, and I don't know where or how this even could be addressed, but I feel like the future land use map and the comprehensive land use maps, I feel like they could be addressed. I feel like this is opening the door for, you know, the rest of the greenery in Bastrop to be turned into impervious cover. And like Ian said, it's a slippery slope, and you can't go back from this, you know? Like once something becomes concrete, it pretty much remains concrete. And I think also, we were told that when the Pearl River project was happening, that the construction teams that were clearing the trees, they were told to stop by a council member, and they didn't because it was cheaper to tear down the trees and pay the fine than it was to go to the trouble to work around and preserve what was there. I don't know if these are going to be the same crews scraping the land or not, but if the fines are that low that it's cheaper than the cost of doing fair business, then I think that those fines need to be addressed. And I don't know if there's any kind of like delay period, like, your construction might not kill your trees up front, but 3 months, 6 months, 4 months later, if those heritage trees die, is the city getting any money for that? Or is that only up front when they scrape them with the initial build? So just some questions to ponder. If the penalty for breaking a rule is nothing, then what's going to keep anyone from following it? And one thing else, it's only been mentioned a handful of times. I remember in the first meeting that we had at the convention center, someone brought up the Dark Sky Initiative. And I've meant to bring that up the last few times. I found that very interesting. And ever since it was pointed out, now every time we're driving around at night, you can see it is a beautiful dark sky out there. And so just felt that should be mentioned again. It's something unique to Bastrop. I'm pretty sure whoever brought it up said there are only 4 cities in Texas that follow the Dark Sky Initiative. So I just urge some thought to be put into that as well. And we'll be reading the PDD in full as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kathleen Albers, who does not wish to speak, but wishes to register as opposing this. Next person registered or scheduled to speak is Stuart Bridges. Mr. Bridges, if you'll state your name and address, you have 3 minutes, sir.
My name is Stuart Bridges. I live at 12 Lost Pines Avenue. I'm the closest house to this development. With the information that we've got tonight that the design is being amended, there's a lot of points that I was going to make that might be a moot point at this stage. I would like to mention to Councilmember Fossler that the ideal for an open forum with developers is brilliant. If that were the case tonight, we could have avoided a lot of this. But we've had no direct contact with the developer except for one community meeting where we spoke for 3 minutes and he spoke for 3 hours. I did meet him in my driveway one evening, and that didn't go very well either. But I'm fairly certain that you guys know that this is the absolute wrong place for this development. Mr. Cerna mentioned a while ago that he did not know why they picked this location. I know exactly why they picked this location, because it's a beautiful spot. It overlooks the whole city. 2011 fire burned 32,000 acres of pine forest. It's in its beginning stages of recovery. Experts have noted that it will be decades before it's fully recovered. This area is known as the Lost Pines Habitat Conservation District. This is the last large stand of pines west of the burned out area. One wind shift during 2011 would have taken that whole hillside out. It wouldn't have taken one ember and it would have been gone, as dry as it was. You put a development like this that close to that bombshell, we live in it every day. I always tell people, if my house ever catches on fire, you ought to come watch it because it's going to be spectacular, but it ain't going to last very long. Are we willing to take such a sensitive and familiar area from the city of Bastrop simply because a developer wants to profit off of our beautiful hillside that can be seen all the way from Highway 20? I have mentioned many times that I've been building these type of developments for most of my 40 years in commercial construction industry. The building along with the road and bridge work will be devastating, but the underground utilities will take this entire hillside. Sanitary sewer, storm sewer, domestic water, huge electrical duct banks, transformers, sectionalizers. This all has to go in on the side of that hill, and it'll be devastating to those trees. I don't have to remind you what happened to Pearl River. As Shannon mentioned a while ago, I know for a fact that the city told the site work sub that very morning that all of those beautiful trees were destroyed, not to do it. They did it anyway because it's cheaper for them and the developer to pay the penalty than to work around them. Increasing their time on site, equipment that large is very expensive to operate. I can assure you that hill will suffer the same fate. And the architect has stated on many occasions that they would save the heritage trees while requesting 90% impervious. That may be a moot point because I know that this new plan is calling for 40. One thing, it will crush the property values of those neighbors in the Lost Pines Avenue. Who's going to share this burden with us? As all the property values go up all around us, this is going to kill our property values. they buy a house in that neighborhood for a reason.
Mr. Bridges, I need you to finish up. The
Okay.
time limit's gone.
If this zoning change is approved, and 80% of the city does not want it, I wouldn't want to put my name on it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next person scheduled is John T. Eberly Jr. Name and address. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Good evening. I'm John Eberly. I live at 20 Lost Pines Avenue, as I have for the last 35-plus years. Why is this back to City Council when you had sent it to the city staff and they took it to zoning, and zoning even asked them the same question? Why is this back? The studies haven't been done. 6 of the committee members say this, and now I ask again, why have we not put a stop to this? They're asking that the traffic study be done, the tree study be done before they come back to them again. And I'm asking the same thing. When one buys a piece of land, they should know at the time of purchase as to the zoning, not after the purchase, attempt to change the zoning to suit their needs. This piece of ground is part of the heritage of Bastrop, also the Texas Conservative. And at one time, we believe it was also part of the state park. What is this going to do to the air quality? We feel an air quality study should be undergone also. That's put a stop to 35's development. City of Austin filed for that. I saw it in the news yesterday. They need to do the traffic survey, another toad survey, because I do not believe the one they have is accurate, air quality, and the impact survey on what this is going to do to the quality of life for us before they're allowed to continue with this project and present these back to the board as to the impact of Bastrop in the area is going to be very dramatic. This is rated as P2 and should not be changed after the fact. We have talked about the increase of crime that a higher density area brings. We have talked about the trees, not just the pines. There are a lot of wildlife in this area and many other types of trees. This hillside has many issues that must be considered. The topographical hillside of this, the different grades that we have up there, there's ravines that are just tremendous ravines that have been there for eons. To fill those in like Buc-ee's did is going to cause flooding downtown just as Buc-ee's has. This is going to be raped just like 969 and 71 were. I can guarantee you when they start digging into the ground, those trees are going to die. Why is this back to City Council again when the zoning has asked that they complete these studies? So I put that for you again. All the photos and the videos that you see, if you look at them, folks, it shows flat land. It doesn't show a hillside. It doesn't show the ravines. It doesn't show the trees, and there's not one big tree in any of those photos that they show us. They've just taken it all out. Please, don't make this the gateway to Houston. Leave our trees alone. Leave Bastrop alone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next scheduled is Donna Eberly. She does not wish to speak, and she is in opposition to this project. Thank you, sir. Next person registered to speak or registered is Christy Foreman. She does not wish to speak, and she wants to register her opposition to this. We have next Brenda Fowler, who does wish to speak on this item. Name and address, and you got 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Brenda Fowler. I live at 525 Tahitian. So I do not live in the city limits, but I work in the city limits. I travel that road every single day. It is beautiful. I just want to state that with this development, I feel like the developers have asked for the community's input, and I really feel like they have listened to what the people have said. They've come back with different ideas. They've talked to the people that live there. And I feel like that with this development, it's going to provide tax revenue for the city. We all know that we need the tax revenue in order to thrive and survive as a city. the more we need restaurants, we need retail. There's tons of people moving here, and if you've tried to go anywhere on, it used to be just on a Friday or Saturday night, you're waiting an hour, 2 hours to go in to get something to eat. So I feel like we need places like this, and this development is making good use of a small area, even though it's 33 acres, instead of spreading out and outside of the city limits and us not getting that tax revenue in the city. So this also will provide jobs for people that live here. And I just, I feel like they've made a lot of concessions, and that they're willing to work with the people to come to something that could hopefully be agreed on by all sides. And so I hope you'll take that into consideration. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have Jennifer Phelps. Name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Jennifer Phelps, 16 Lost Pines Avenue. I am 2 lots away from this development. I do appreciate the developers working on compromises with us. However, I still have some concerns. I am concerned that I am going to be surrounded by apartment complexes. Right now, I already got a trailer park that's popped up right down the street. And then I'm going to have apartments lining my ridge over me. So I would encourage you to keep it as P2 rural. This was Hillcrest subdivision. That's what my plat said 30 years ago when I bought the property, when I bought my home. It's a subdivision. It was meant to be a subdivision for single-family homes, not multifamily homes. And I would encourage you to keep that zoning there. It was there for a reason. A lot of work went into it. I don't see a reason to change it. This is a residential area. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next person is Robert Phelps, who does not wish to speak, but he wants to register his opposition to this project. The next person registered to speak is Linda Curtis. Does not want to speak. I'm sorry, I should have read further down. She wants to register her opposition to this. Madam City Secretary, do we have any more people desiring to speak on this item?
No, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Council, the item's been laid out. We have held the public hearing. We're going to keep the public hearing open. Comments and questions, Councilmember Meyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Regarding this item, first I want to recognize, I went to the Planning and Zoning meeting last Thursday night, and I want to thank the Planning and Zoning Commission because they had great questions. They put a lot of time and effort into their consideration of their vote, so I do want to thank and recognize them. There's some things that I'm confused on with this project because we've had some different versions, so I really am not quite sure. The last one I got was at 3 this afternoon, so that's not enough time for me to consider, and it's not enough time for y'all, for the people, to even see that. So that's a concern of mine. No, our staff. Okay, so nobody. So we all need to see it, right? We all need to take in the new version. So I can't, there's no way I can make a decision on anything, just seeing it a couple hours. The other thing that I'm concerned about, and I know this is our process, it doesn't have to be our process, and going forward, I would like for the process to be that we require TIAs, traffic impact analysis, we require studies that are going to affect an area before we even consider that. Because if we don't have that information how can we consider and have the knowledge? So I think some points, and Planning and Zoning did bring this up last week too, so I think that's not unreasonable. And I would like for us to go through the process and make some amendments. Being on council, I do recommend we do that moving forward, because I promise you this isn't going to be the first time we need to consider all these impacts that it's going to have. Another thing that I really want to see is how we will address, because one ladder truck, and I did hear that it's at the Planning and Zoning meeting, one ladder truck that we have now can serve a P5, which is 5 stories. But there were some other issues that were brought up about fire safety, so I would like those in an explanation in the packet also, the final packet that we get, please. Just, we need that information. I do think the fact that we need to address, and I know our city manager has said this because she told Planning and Zoning this last Thursday, we must address the comprehensive plan and the future land use. So that's, if this isn't a signal on that, we need to have an alarm going off right now to do that. I think those were my main points. I want us all to have the most information we can before making critical decisions for our town. So those are the points that I just wanted to make.
Thank you, ma'am. All good points. Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councilmember Meyer. Please know that this is not an easy decision that we have to make. I can speak for myself, and I think my fellow council members share the same sentiment. We hear your concerns. I am taking everything everybody says. I have copious notes of what all of you have said in every meeting. So, but please know that we as a council body do want to make the best decision for this community and for the residents. I spoke with some residents after the last meeting, or the P&Z meeting, I think it was, and because the reality is something is going to get put on that land. Do you want a trailer park? Do you want 200 homes? Do you want multifamily housing? I am of the firm belief that Bastrop needs diverse housing. And eventually something will get put on that piece of property. And we have to be able to work with the residents, the developers, to determine what is going to be the best use of that land. And I'm asking the residents to do that. I think it needs to be a domain. I was at the domain. People know I love the domain. It's a nightmare. I was there last Saturday. It's a nightmare. I was almost late to my movie. The driving is horrible. We don't want that. I don't want that in that area. It's bad enough. People have brought up the soil concerns, so that might be something that we need to look at. What is the soil out there, and what can be built where? Maybe we need to look at a combination. We haven't had a chance to look at the new draft, but a P2 area, P3 area, P4 area. It was suggested to me that we look at a conditional approval, provided that the developer does come back with a TIA and the tree study and the toad study, and it's conditionally approved, not final change of zoning, but based on those conditions, if they come back. Doing that would allow them to do the TIA, do all of the things that you guys are requesting and the studies that we need to do to make sure this is a viable piece of land. If those studies are then done, because it's conditionally approved, if they're done and it's determined, no, traffic will be worse, the soil will fall off on the slopes, then we'll have to take a different route. But what I'm asking of the residents is know that we are looking at every option possible, because we do need housing. People do need a place to stay. We know that that area is a difficult area to build in, but something's got to be there. The residents have mentioned to me that they understand that they want something less dense. So what does that look like? I would suggest to the developers, you have Ian and Shannon are our honorary planning and zoning members right now. Pablo has brought up very good points, Mr. Bridges as well. We've had a couple of big meetings to include tonight. Why not reach out to those individuals that have been here consistently to see what a concept for them looks like so that we can move forward? We got now 2 weeks to be able, for you to be able to do that. Because some of them have said, we're not there, but it's better. So meet with them intimately and see how we can get it there, and if that's going to be possible. I don't know if this question is for the city attorney and city manager. What would a conditional approval look like if we were to eventually get to a point where we're actually going to vote on this and we did a conditional approval?
In prior cities that I've worked on, number one, I will tell you conditional approvals are difficult to manage because they come with expectations for performance. And so you have a developer who, let's say, has $5 billion on the ground and they are failing to perform something, that conditional approval is going to, what are we going to do? Are we actually as a city going to do that? So I'll just plant that seed, the first. But normally a conditional approval comes with a time frame. We have embedded time frames in our code already that has approved conceptual plans, and those conceptual plans will die off after a period of time when the civil engineering can't be met. We have several of those in process right now where, again, I'll remind you, our code calls for a conceptual plan. So we have several conceptual plans in process right now that just cannot make it over the finish line. And that is a natural course of development. It is it's a risk that the developer takes. They look at the site, they look at the future land use map, they look at everything around and go, okay, I think I can make it work. A dream and a hope does not often translate into reality. So you would give it some time frame, you would give it, X, Y, Z. My preference is I would just caution, because those from a staff perspective, if the developer meets everything and you've given it conditional approval, we call them CUPs on our map, a conditional use or some other conditional approval, they become onerous from a staff perspective to maintain.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Maybe it turns into an approval. Is that what you're talking about? Like it's conditional until they can make it work, and then it's
conditional until we get the studies back to determine what the traffic is, and because that would then guide the project or the concept of the project, what the traffic is, the tow, the soil, because if all of that comes back and it's like, oh, you can only build one apartment building on here, that's going to shift their concept, which could then bring them back to the table with something less dense.
True, and I appreciate your comment about something's going to go there, because a P2 allows duplexes and attached single family, which is duplexes and townhomes, so.
Something's going to go there. So I don't know if that's maybe something you can look into and consider over the next 2 weeks, but I definitely hope the developers will get with these faithfuls that have come in a more intimate setting to see if we can come to a compromise on this. And again, know that it's a very difficult decision for us. We are trying to look at the grand scale things because we have to represent all of Bastrop. Bastrop does need housing. We do need to increase our sales tax revenue. I do believe if we had more diverse housing, rent costs would go down. So those are factors that we have to consider too, and that you will be patient with us as we try to work through this.
Thank you, ma'am. Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
So I want to start by saying that I agree that this project may not fit at this location. Having said that, there are benefits to the city for developing within the city limits. You've got the expanded property tax revenue, which will probably increase our property tax collection by 20% in the entire city without raising anybody's taxes. You've got the sales tax from retail. You've got the impact fees for water and wastewater, which will help lower the rates and the fees that all of the existing citizens pay for the wastewater treatment plant and the water wells. And then you've got road impact fees. So these are not used to maintain existing roads, these are to build new roads. And it's a brand new impact fee that this council passed that, well, prior council, but recently passed, that allows the city to collect a reasonable sum of money each time someone builds a new development that would then allow us to build additional and new roads. So the concern is that this is near the edge of the city limits, and so if you say, for instance, this project doesn't fit at this location, but maybe it fits a couple blocks away at some location that's outside the city limits, well, then we as the city lose all of those revenue opportunities. It goes into a space that is not regulated because the county does not have authority to regulate because the state does not give that to them. And we get all of the people and all of the traffic using our HEB, using our city services, but we don't get the benefit of being able to add new roads. So all of these things kind of factor into the thought process about it. And then the next thing I want to say is that even if a zoning change is approved, that does not mean that the project is approved. The project has to fundamentally meet all of the other requirements of the code. So for instance, the drainage and the traffic impact analysis and even the toad study. If those things don't check out, then when the plat goes to planning and zoning, then they can still deny that, and then the project doesn't happen. It's not approved. And I kind of have a couple of questions because this is so important to our community. Is it possible as part of the PDD for council to also approve this plat?
The plat's a separate item.
Mm-hmm.
The PDD is use-based, and that's
Well, no, I'm aware of that, but I'm saying that as you move through the process, there is an approval of a plat that comes next in order for them to begin development or even apply for development permits. And so I'm suggesting that can we put a checkpoint there for council as well? Because I know there's a checkpoint there for P&Z.
So the checkpoint in the plat is the public improvement plan that council has to approve. It's the PIP or PIPA, Public Improvement Plan, and then if there's any agreement, the PIPA, the Public Improvement Plan agreement, as to how they're going to finance those improvements. If they're going to put money up front, they're going to cash fund them, however they're going to do that. So that's the mechanism for council to make a determination if the infrastructure they're proposing actually matches what the city needs or matches the master plans.
So what I'm basically thinking is that there's an ask to see some additional planning before it gets approval. But our process doesn't work like that. Our process goes through a zoning change, and then after the zoning change, then the developer does the traffic impact analysis and other things, and then they come back and start with additional plans. So they'll do, say, final drainage and traffic impact, and then there are some additional approval checkpoints. And so those are the places where those plans are required to exist. They're required to exist in our current code, and I'm looking for there to be a checkpoint there somewhere so that P&Z and council can then look at the project from the perspective of this is how it will impact our residents at this location based upon all of the known information. This is what buildings are going to be put there. This is the final version of it, not an imaginary version of it. Because all of the renderings we have, they're pretty and they're done architecturally, but they're imaginary. They don't represent what's actually going to go on that land. But there is a plan that doesn't exist yet that will represent what actually goes on that land and that has the requisite studies to go with it. And I'm looking for that to get approval by P&Z and council.
So I'm going to respond to a portion of your question, and then I'm going to punt to Alan because there's some legal. In the development process sequence, you must go through the zoning first. You
Right.
cannot plat something that isn't zoned properly,
Mhm.
because in the normal world, and we don't live in the normal world under the B3, there are lot size minimums, there's et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We don't have lot size minimums. So the line between zoning and platting is a little bit blurred. And the plat is what drives the public improvement requirements, and those are all legally required by statute. Alan, anything you want to add?
I think, Mayor Pro Tem, I understand what you're getting at. I would say the plat's not going to be that, because
Okay.
plat is really more of a ministerial function.
Mhm.
Either it meets the requirements of our code and gets approved, or it does not. And so there's not much in the way of discretion or flexibility when it comes to plat approval. Most of our discretion and flexibility is going to be at the zoning stage.
Okay.
And so this is where we would want to exercise more of that. If we were to modify our process or have some developer agree to process that has, more of a site plan equivalent pre-construction, a deeper look at what the horizontal construction is going to be, that's where we could put some additional checkpoints along the way. But plat wouldn't be it.
Okay.
And to add on to Alan's point, the piece about the conceptual plan is where almost every city gets tripped up, with Bastrop not being any different, because we see something that's pictured, but again, that's a hope and a dream. That may not occur. Farm Street Village is a perfect example. Right in the middle of that, the flood maps changed.
Right.
There is a plan that has 71 or so lots on there that will not emerge into 71 lots for a variety of reasons. So the concept plan that was approved has a life, and it has a shelf life, and it'll eventually expire, and then, we'll start over.
So then, Alan, I have one final question. Can a body change zoning with a clock attached to it, such that if something doesn't happen within a time frame like 2 years, or just, to give you an idea of what I'm contemplating, that it would snap back to the prior zoning? Like if you don't get approved, TIAs and, the types of things that we're talking about. So when you change zoning, it typically is you're changing it, and then anyone that buys that property in the future now has that zoning. So I'm asking about, is there any way to change it, I don't know if the word is provisionally, but change it for this developer for this project, and then if that doesn't work for any reason, then it snaps back? Or is that not a thing?
It can be possible. That sort of automatic reversionary clauses don't typically exist in standard zoning. When you're discussing a owner-requested zoning change, or when you're discussing some sort of customized zoning district like a planned development district, you could build that in. Sometimes planned development district ordinances also are accompanied by a planned development district agreement, which is a companion contract that covers things that are not zoning. Those can sometimes be negotiated at the same time the zoning is being negotiated. The trick is obviously that the property owner developer is aware of those limitations, so they don't, go out there and incur investment costs that are then frustrated when that clock expires and the reversion kicks in. We have to make sure that there's notice up front.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. This body is charged with being the deliberative legislative body, so I appreciate the questions in the comments during this. I did not call up Ms. Higgins, our outstanding senior planner, because none of us had been given the opportunity to read the ordinance or the new plan, the new concept. Ms. Kennedy, did you want to add anything to the conversation? The answer that I'm looking for is no, but I was going to give you that opportunity. Thank you so much. Okay, council, with, Councilmember Fossler.
Thank you. City Manager, I have 2 questions, please. Do you happen to recall in the pre-development meeting Was there any promise or guarantee or likelihood promised of any future zone change being assured?
No, that's always a crapshoot for
Okay.
everybody. They do rely heavily on the future land use map.
Okay. And then also for clarification for the road fees, the addition of new roads that we keep talking about, road fees can only be used for roads that are joining the property where they're collected. Is that true?
No, they can be used within a radius to improve traffic flow.
Like any idea what kind of radius?
6 miles.
6 miles? That's pretty
There's,
big. Chris.
within the area A and within the area B,
Oh, right.
within those particular areas.
Okay, thank you.
Your light's still on. Oh, no, rookie mistake. Councilmember Meyer.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make this quick. I'm feeling that, and I do appreciate the owner-developer speaking tonight. And Mr. Beagle, you've done a wonderful job, and happy birthday. But I do appreciate that, and I do appreciate all the input from the neighbors and all the citizens, because everyone is affected. But I do feel I'm getting a sense now, and on what this last version that was really fast, and I really need to study more, but I am getting a better feeling that we know something's going to go up there, that something can be up there that we all can be happy with and live with. And I am getting that feeling now. However, it's not tonight because we still need to review this. You still need to see it, right? So that being said, I would like to make a motion to table this tonight and bring it back on the May 28th meeting so everyone can be very clear on what it is what is proposed and what we can or cannot approve.
We have a motion from Councilmember Meyer, second from Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland. I'll remind you that the public hearing is still open, so we will be taking public comment on the 28th. Any further discussion, Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
For the development team, when do you expect to have, say, a final version of the PDD?
Thank you. The PD document, the diagrams you saw today, and the ask, the tables that you saw today, are effectively complete. We have to annotate certain provisions within the ask itself. I would say within the week we would have that done, before the end of this week.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Council, we have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none indicated, Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Meyer.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Before moving on, is anybody in need of a bio break? We will take a 5-minute recess. Item 15B, consider action to approve resolution number R-2024-58. I'm sorry, we're conducting a meeting here. If y'all could take it outside. No, outside in the foyer, please. Thank you so much. I will begin again on 15B. Consider action to approve resolution number R-2024-58 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, authorizing the city manager to accept a donation on behalf of the City of Bastrop Police Department in the amount of $2,564 from projectbeloved.org for utilization by the City of Bastrop Police Department's Victim Services Division, allowing for a more aesthetic remodel of the victim interview room, enhancing the space to be more conducive for interviewing victims and family members, authorizes the city manager to execute all necessary documents, providing for a repeating clause, and establishing an effective date. Chief Stefanik.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The City of Bastrop Police Department has received a donation for $2,564 to aesthetically remodel our victims' interview room. This donation came from a 501c3 called Project Beloved. Project Beloved was started by a mother whose 22-year-old daughter, Molly Jane, was raped, strangled, and murdered in 2017 by an intimate partner. Since the establishment of Project Beloved, Molly Jane's Law has been established, and Project Beloved makes donations such as Beloved bundles, soft interview rooms, and scholarships. I'm requesting the police department be allowed to accept this donation to further enable our department to advocate for victims of crime, in this case by creating a more comfortable environment.
Thank you, Council. The item's been laid out. Chief has presented the
Move
item.
to approve.
I have a motion from Councilmember
Second.
Pluckett. I have a second from Councilmember Fossler. Any further discussion? Seeing none indicated. Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Plunkett,
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland,
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Chief. Moving on to item 15C, hold a public hearing and consider action to approve the first reading of ordinance number 2024-13 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, approving the zoning change for 6.218 plus or minus acres out of the Nancy Blakey Survey Abstract 98, located west of FM 969 within the City of Bastrop, Texas, P3 residential to P5 core as shown in attachment 2, providing for findings of fact, providing for a repeater, providing for severability, providing for enforcement, providing for proper notice and meeting, and establishing an effective date and move to include on the May 28, 2024 consent agenda for a second reading. Ms. Higgins.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Sorry, I like long titles. So this item that we have in front of you, it's a zoning concept scheme for Valverde. It's this small lot in the top right-hand corner. The lot is called Valverde North. It's a multifamily development that is trying to go in there. They are currently requesting a rezone from P3 as it currently exists to P5 commercial so that they can do the multifamily apartment complex style. It'll be more so duplexes. That's the request in front of you today. I will also let you know that there is a slight typo in the report. Under the recommendation from P&Z, it was not recommended for a PDD. They have already gone through the development agreement process. So today is just the rezoning. It's not a PDD. So this proposed lot consists of 41 buildings, which is a total of 82 units since they are duplexes. This lot will fall under the regulations of the development agreement that has been previously approved. For example, this lot will be zoned P5. B3 allows 80% impervious cover in P5. Their development agreement is more stringent and requires 70% impervious cover maximum. And so this lot is currently proposed at 62.1% impervious cover, so they're well within their means of impervious cover. Water and wastewater will be served via the city with line extensions. And so when it comes to traffic, the main access for this development will be on the main arterial road. It is called Puerto Plata Ave, I believe. And so it's this road right here that is the main access to this site. And notification was sent out to property owners within 200 feet of this development. As of yet, we have not received any back in the mail. All right, and that is, nope, it's moving forward without me. All right, do y'all have any questions? We also do have the developer here as well, if you have questions for them on this lot.
Any questions for Ms. Higgins or for the developer, Councilmember Lee?
I just have one for the city manager because my mind is drawing a blank and I know I've typed this 50 million times. But the P4 mix allows for multifamily housing. Why did it jump to P5?
So this is one of those backwards cleanup items. There was a development agreement already in place for this one that included annexation and uses. And that's great. It's in the development agreement. We hadn't gone through the rezoning process. So to Councilmember Fossler's prior point, was something already promised. In this case, yes, we went through a development agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
I have a motion for Councilmember Plunkett.
Second.
I have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland. Any further discussion? Seeing none indicated, Madam City Secretary, if you will call.
Do we need a public hearing?
Oh, I am so sorry. You're absolutely correct.
Good call.
We need to have a public hearing.
Yes, it's the rezone.
It is 9:08. Public hearing is now open. Madam City Secretary, do you have anybody wishes to speak
No, Mayor.
on this item? I am now closing the public hearing. We have a motion on the floor from Councilmember Plunkett. We have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland. Seeing no.
Could we just make sure with the attorney that my motion is still in order? Just to make sure.
It is, yes.
Thank you.
Now that we're in order, no further discussion. Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Moving on to item 15E, consider action to approve, we'll remind you that we have set aside 15D. Moving to 15E, consider action to approve resolution number R-2024-06, the City Council of the City of Bastrop authorizing a license to encroach agreement with Savadni Food Court to encroach into the public utility easement to place mobile food trailers closer to Cedar Street as attached in Exhibit B of the license agreement, authorizing the city manager to execute the necessary documents providing for a repealing clause and establishing an effective date. Ms. Higgins.
Back again, thank you, Mayor. So this item you can see here, it is located at the corner of Cedar Street and Highway 95. The development is proposing essentially a mobile food court style regime with associated outdoor seating and a public restroom facility. So the reason that this encroachment is requested, as you can see here, it's a little small, I'm sorry. So up here at top, highlighted in yellow for y'all, is the 20-foot PUE that currently exists. And the encroachment would be to allow these pad sites in that PUE. They received sign-off from each of the public utility companies as well as the privates such as AT&T and anything that would use that public utility easement. They've received sign-off saying that we're okay if you use it, just not giving it away essentially. The main reason that this is requested is because you can see here on the lot, it's mostly flood zone. And it's also passes the Gills Branch center line. So very little of this lot is usable, is developable. And so the owner has requested a encroachment into that public utility easement so that they can actually use the majority of their lot. So you go back. So it's these three pad sites up here that it will be encroaching into the public utility easement. Do y'all have any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Higgins? Councilmember Meyer.
Yep, not to say that I'm not for or against this. I just have a question regarding if we did this because of the flooding issue on the lot, future projects, will this set a precedent for that?
Are you talking for flooding in specific or
Yes.
encroach?
Yeah.
So the reason that they're moving it up is to avoid the flooding issue so that they can use that portion of the lot. The thing also with this agreement is it does expire in 1 year. It renews every year automatically unless either the city or the applicant says, hey, I want to pull this encroachment agreement, then it can be removed that way, but it automatically renews each year.
Good to know, thank you.
Councilmember Fossler.
I have a question. Those circles on the survey, are those trees?
I believe so.
Okay, because I drove by there today and there are beautiful trees right there, and I'm just hoping that this food court will be around it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really close to Gills Branch. They can't do much on the rest of the lot.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? I will entertain a motion if not.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Councilmember Meyer.
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Fossler. Seeing no further discussion or questions indicated, Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Council.
Are you done?
I am. Last y'all see me tonight.
Moving on to item 15G, consider action to approve the first reading of ordinance number 2024-15, the City Council, City of Bastrop, Texas, amending the Bastrop Economic Development Budget for the fiscal year 2024 in accordance with the existing statutory requirements, appropriating the various amounts herein as attached in Exhibit A, repeating all prior ordinances and actions in conflict herewith, and establishing for an effective date, and move to include on the May 28, 2024, on the agenda, consent agenda for second reading. Ms. McElwain.
Good evening. I guess it's not there. In front of you, should have the budget amendment for the Bastrop Economic Development Corporation. The first amendment is a decrease in revenue. This budget amendment reduces the sales tax revenue by 3/8 of 1 cent as voted on by the citizens. And this change took effect April 1st, 2024. So it's for 6 months out of the year. And then the second amendment is also in addition.
Ms. McElwain, hold on just a second. Are y'all able to find it?
It was in the packet.
Should be in your packet.
Oh, thank you.
There you go.
There it is. Okay.
Good catch. Okay, carry on.
Sorry. Here is the budget amendment. And so the first one is the reduction in revenue. And then the second one is a reduction in expenses. Many of these decreases are a direct correlation of the reduction in staff. Contractual services is decreased due to the removal of some projects that are not going to happen, like South to Lovers Lane. We also had a capital outlay, a reduction in capital outlay for some projects that we were removing. And that's really, their board has already approved it, so it's here for your approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Fossler, a second by Councilmember Lee. Any further discussion needed or indicated? Seeing none, Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Fossler?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. We'd be pleased to know that we're almost midway on page 5 of 6. Council, we move to item 15H, consider action to approve resolution number 2024-55 of the City Council, City of Bastrop, Texas, confirming appointments by the Mayor of Joshua Bingaman to place 7 of the Planning and Zoning Commission as required in section .08 of the city's charter and establishing an effective date. Mr. Bingaman had submitted his application. He has a background in residential and commercial real estate, as well as various boards and commissions in Austin, and he is definitely involved in all things Bastrop at this point in time. Respectfully ask for y'all's confirmation.
Motion to approve.
I have a
Second.
motion from Councilmember Lee.
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Fossler. No further discussion indicated. Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Thank you, Council, and thank you, Mr. Bingaman. Moving on to 15I, consider action to approve resolution number R-2024-53, the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, confirming the appointment by the Mayor of Keith Auburn to place 3 of the Planning and Zoning Commission as required in section 3.08 of the city's charter, establishing an effective date. Council, as y'all know, Mr. Auburn is currently on the ZBA, and he has been asked to be placed on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I respectfully ask for y'all's confirmation.
Motion to approve, please.
Second.
Who made the motion? I'm sorry.
I made a motion.
I have a motion by Councilmember Meyer, second by Councilmember Fossler. No further discussion indicated. Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Moving on to 15J, consider action to approve resolution number R-2024-52 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, confirming the appointment by the mayor of Nathaniel Gold to place 7 of the Parks Board as required in Section 3.08 of the city's charter and establishing an effective date. Mr. Gold is the new chief ranger out at the state park and will be a perfect fit to our Parks Board. I respectfully ask for your confirmation.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Councilmember Plunkett.
Second.
A second by Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland. No further discussion is indicated. Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Plunkett,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Foster.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Moving on to 15K, consider action to approve resolution number R-2024-51 of the City Council, City of Bastrop, Texas, accepting a donation from the Lost Pines Art League in the amount of $50,000 for the creation of a sculpture within the boundaries of the Cultural Arts Commission District Project approved area, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents, providing for a repealing clause and establishing an effective date. Ms. Danielson.
Mayor, City Council, City Manager, we're here tonight requesting approval of the resolution to accept a donation from the Lost Pines Art League in the amount of $50,000 for the creation of a sculpture within the boundaries of the Cultural Arts Commission District that I believe y'all approved at the last council meeting. The Bastrop Cultural Arts Commission, in partnership with the Lost Pines Art League, held a gala and raised additional funds for these sculptures. And they are wanting to donate $50,000 to the city. And in your packet is a copy of the donation receipt, the contract with the artist, and the resolution for approval.
Council, it's been laid out and presentation made.
Mayor, I have a legal question for
Yes,
Alan, because I don't,
ma'am.
right now it feels a little bit like we're washing some money, and I just want to make sure we're all legal. So the Cultural Arts Commission had the gala, they raised the money, and they raised the money specific to an artist. So they've donated that money to the city, and this amount is like a bid amount. So how do we get, is it going to be like a sole source? How do we get past the bidding? How do we get past that? And I'm sorry to just pop that on you.
That's okay, I'm just trying to process quickly. City Manager, Mayor, and Council, if you're commissioning a particular work of art, it's exempt from the competitive bidding requirements.
Okay.
As the manager indicated, we would treat that like a sole source.
Okay.
Because there's nobody else that can provide that level of creativity unique to that particular artist.
Okay, so it is sole source, so we'll go through our purchasing sole source packet then.
Yes,
Okay.
that's my recommendation.
Any further questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. So we have discussion. Councilmember Fossler.
Yes, just a note of clarification on the artist agreement on the second page, the 4 contract sum, there just needs to be a cleanup of it says $25,000 and then in parentheses it says $50,000. And $50,000 is indeed correct. It just needs to, the numbers need to match the words.
And it said they do a $25,000, or we will do a $25,000 deposit, and then when the sculpture is finished, then she will receive the additional $25,000, but we will make that
Yeah, it's the first line.
in the contract.
Thank you.
Outstanding, good catch. Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
I just wanted to say thank you to Joe Grady Tuck and Robin Luck for their generous donation.
And Robin is the artist.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Any further discussion? Mayor Pro Tem, your light is still on. We have a motion. We have a second. No further discussion. Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer, Councilmember Plunkett,
Yes.
Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler.
Yes.
Thank you, council. We'll move to 15L. Consider action to approve resolution number R-20-56 approving expenditure of city funds for Mayor Lyle Nelson to attend an event, function, and/or convention, providing an execution of all necessary documents, providing for a repealer, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. This is direction per Resolution 2024-49 that requires council approval for your expenditures. And for this quarter, because they're throughout the year, for this particular quarter, we have registration for the TML Annual Conference. We have chamber luncheons that are held throughout, and then the best breakfasts that are held the last Friday of each month.
And for clarification, all the best breakfasts are not necessarily to the expense of the city of Bastrop. There's other political subdivisions that incur that expense, correct?
Correct. Some are BEDC expenses.
Okay, just for clarification. Along the same lines, Madam City Manager, for me to appear at various events, I wanted to make sure that they were clear and I've received appropriate permission from council to attend the Memorial Day ceremony at Fairview Cemetery on the 27th.
So from what we understood in discussing with legal, they requested you.
They
So
did.
that is an outside entity requesting you to.
Wanted to clarify. Thank you so much for that. Okay, council, this item's been laid out. City manager has made her presentation. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Councilmember Meyer.
Second.
I have a second, motion from Councilmember Lee and a second from Councilmember Fossler. Any further discussion? I apologize, ladies. Any further discussion? I see none indicated. Madam City Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Fossler?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Thank you, council. We are moving to page 6, council. We'll be moving into executive session. 16A, City Council shall convene in a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, 551.072, and 551.087 to seek the advice of legal counsel regarding the potential development of a sports complex. 16B, City Council shall convene in a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 to seek the advice of legal counsel regarding the master agreement for the transfer of retail water certificate of convenience and necessity service area from Aqua Water Supply Corporation to the City of Bastrop in consideration of compensation for certain service areas. City Council shall, 16C, City Council shall convene a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 and 551.072 to seek the advice of legal counsel regarding acquisition of the real estate related to wastewater treatment plant number 3 project and pending litigation of the following eminent domain proceedings pending in the Bastrop County Court of Law, case number 20-20294, City of Bastrop versus William A. and Sally Griesenbeck, case number 20-20295, City of Bastrop versus William J. and Tanya Griesenbeck, case number 20-20282, City of Bastrop versus Melissa Lee Griesenbach Schulke, in case number 20-20283, City of Bastrop versus Joanne Griesenbeck Cantrell and William Cantrell. It is 9:26. Council's in executive session. 9:58, council is out of executive session and back into regular session. We are now taking up item 17, taking any necessary appropriate action on matters posted for consideration, closed executive session. On 16A, no action. 16B, no action. On 16C, I believe we have a motion.
I move to authorize the city manager in consultation with the city attorney's office to execute a settlement agreement and all necessary documents to resolve the 4 cases and acquire the real property interests needed for the project for the total settlement values agreed upon in mediation.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Plunkett, a second by Councilmember Lee. I see no further discussion indicated. Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland,
Yes.
Councilmember Foster.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion passes. We'll move to item 18, adjournment. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion from Councilmember Fossler.
Second.
And a second from Councilmember Lee. We are adjourned.